Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 19th, 2022 joint meeting of the Master Plan Advisory Committee and the Planning Board. I hear lots of feedback.
Which is the one that has the owl.
This one
has the owl. So this one is.
Adjustment of the sound.
How about now? No worse.
We're doing okay? Now there's a message on the screen. Oh, fine. Okay, so this is a hybrid meeting. We're live in Town Hall auditorium, plus we have people participating from the public on Zoom, plus our consultant, Ken Camilla from the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. So I'll ask Jessica Parker to do a roll call.
Thanks. Good evening.
Hi.
Marcus Phelps,
Present.
David Spina, Doug Moglen,
Present.
Randy Brown, David D. DeLore, Bert Hanson, Dave McWilliams,
Here.
Norm Cheever,
Here.
Patrick Jubb, Alita De Maria, Amber Bach, Scott Lehman,
Here.
Dory Boyd, here, Ross Terry, here, Jessica Whitmore Parker, here, David Masai, Marissa Cook Obregon, here, Michael Doherty, Lucas Karen, Maria Michael.
Thank you. Well, with the roll call, we do not have a quorum of the planning board, but we do have a quorum of the Master Plan Advisory Committee. So we'll note that for the record and proceed on to the agenda. Oh, the meeting is being recorded. Is anyone recording? All right, thank you. Public comment dialogue. Anyone here like to say anything? Thank you. Do we have anybody online? Thank you. So we'll move right into the old business. Last meeting, we got close to halfway through the questions on the community survey. And we would move forward from where we stopped. So Ken Camilla will facilitate that.
Well, there were some changes that didn't get
Pardon?
made, right? I reviewed those from like that 4 pages of notes and they were done. Mostly. Oh, I thought there was some language. There was something like, there's one in the demographics that we had agreed to remove that still stayed in.
Number 8.
Yeah, at the time it was number 8.
Right.
I don't know what it'll be tonight.
Well, okay, so Norm had comment.
There's an issue with number 2. I want to change it. It's a mandatory field. Don't fill it out. Can't submit.
Great, we need their address.
Okay, now I'm out of state or out of town person that works here. What do they have to fill in?
Their address in Southwick, so wherever they work, wherever they own, wherever they live.
Well, should so state because it's not clear.
Let's start then. Ken, you're online now. You can hear us okay?
Yep.
Okay, so Norm Cheever had a comment on item 2, which was the address. If a person owns a business, I guess what you're saying, Norm, and they don't live in Southwick, how are we, do we need to explain that a little more as far as,
It doesn't say residence,
no, it says Southwick address.
Right.
so you have a Southwick address.
put in parentheses your home address or business address, so that way.
Home or business?
Yeah, I can do that.
You do
So-
home.
Home or
John,
business?
can you allow me to share?
I'll touch every time.
Yeah, that's good. Home or business in parentheses.
You're welcome.
So we were going to move forward. We'll probably have to come back over a couple items because we had postponed, I think, was it 14, 15, somewhere in that range? But the intent is to move forward as Mr. McWilliams commented last meeting. Once we say we're good with a question, we want to keep going forward, not trying to go back. Because we know not everybody is at every meeting, but we need to move through this. So Ken, go ahead with, oh,
Sorry,
Marissa.
One final comment about this initial section. It's now question 5, what best describes your household? Single occupant couple, parents with school-aged children, parents with adult children. I think that's a bit exclusionary in that what if you have a baby, they're not school-aged children? Can we maybe just change
What number?
number 5 in the newest version? It just refreshed. It was 6 about 2 minutes ago.
I think it would.
Trying to keep you on your toes,
Yeah,
Marissa.
I think so, yeah, tricky.
So 5 is all right?
Well, I think there's no option for parents who have children who aren't school aged, or, what if you have a baby? But are you not a parent
We
then?
can probably just remove that school age because we asked later in the school section. We could just ask parents
Yeah.
with children at home, and just get rid of
Yeah,
that.
just say children or children under 18, because the next question, or the next option is parents with adult children, implying they're over 18, so one or the other, but I think we need to make sure it's not just school age children, because that's,
Ken, are you hearing that? The school aged is under 5. The third box. Parents with children, and then I guess it's under 18 is considered a child. I don't know.
technically.
What's the,
Are you fine with just
Children
parents
under-
with children? Because you'll see later as Dory had in her comments, and I think it's reflected later in the survey. We identify the ability to choose whether or not you have children in the school system or elsewhere. Maybe it's just parents with children. Is that?
yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
I don't know what's happening here. Okay.
Parents with child or children.
And then you're saying delete the adult children thing, or do
I
we
mean, you
need to
can
know?
keep that if that's important demographic information, in which case I think you simply distinguish children under 18 or adult children. You have both options, I think. Certainly are, I guess, adult children living at home.
What do we do with that?
So parents with children under 18.
I mean, maybe not, maybe just
Right.
say children, so then you can eliminate both of those options and turn them into one. I mean, I'm all for streamlining it, if that's something important.
Parents with adult children at home, that's fine. They can quickly check. Excellent.
So I know we don't want to go backwards, but we changed some things on the intro letter that now don't make sense. And that was one of my comments. We used to say mail to the address above, but we took the address off.
Okay. So I'll just put the address within this comment here, within this paragraph. If you want to mail it to
Yeah.
the town, and then put the address of the planning department.
And then the other thing in there is June 30th was old. At the end of the meeting, we had postponed, so I don't think June 30th is right anymore.
No, we'll discuss that here as we finish up.
Dory, didn't you also want a direct link to the Facebook page?
Is that link of live?
Yeah. The one in
Okay.
my comments.
Do we want the graphics at the top of every page? Causes you to have to
It's
scroll.
really huge too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to show that it was there, but I have to shrink it. I just have to like resize the photo.
You have to scroll every time.
Is there, Marissa, is there like a banner size graphic you have, or is this the only, this is the one I thought was most appropriate based on the ones you provided to me.
She said she can resize it to
Okay.
whatever you need.
All right, well, I'll let her just send me whatever you know, banner graphic or whatever graphic you think fits better there.
Sure.
Awesome.
We already did, it's number 13 right now, and it says, please rank the following in order of importance that the town should play to ensure housing for all. Say, should pay, I guess, is that what it's supposed to be? So asking, but the thing is that we're not asking importance that the town should pay to ensure housing. I think it's supposed to be pay, not play.
Oh, yes.
Small, but, you know.
Oops.
I don't know.
Pay doesn't die for me.
So plan and
Yeah,
ensure,
so the town
plan
should
to
pay for
ensure,
whatever the
it should be,
questions are.
yeah, so plan to ensure housing for all.
I was proposing, please rank what should be the priorities of the town to ensure housing for all.
That works. Please rank priority.
Was that Dory?
Please rank what should be the priorities of the town to ensure housing for all.
Frank, what the priority?
Then also telling them is number 1 most important or number 9.
So you need an indication across the numbers there.
So on your previous page, there was one that we had said we wanted to delete the remaining.
Yeah, that was the Southwick 2040, right?
The evolved one, yeah.
Yep.
I don't know.
I will delete that one.
The only other thing backwards was like the way number 10 on there. Some of those things don't make sense now. Wait. Yeah, number 10.
Yeah.
Like increased traffic. Who here is going to say, I want to encourage increase in traffic? So I think that we might just want to talk about the wording of some of those.
Let's just make a note then on Ken. Ken can, you know, fix that up in the interest of time.
Okay.
Make a note. We
All
still
right.
want, we still want the questions, just the choices are, need to be logical.
Okay.
So we ended up at mobility. Did we not do mobility yet?
We ended up at infrastructure and services.
So we did mobility. So we're at infrastructure and services.
Other than, did we ever get housing authority feedback on that housing section?
No, Amber provided, I think just a brief note known to Mr. Phelps, but no effect on housing authority.
Nope. I guess we would say,
Often that they meet.
some. I don't know, not very often.
I'm sorry, this, last housing question, it's question 16 for me. It says, where would you like to see new housing built? Just trying to be mindful about not leading with bias. Answers there. I don't see a section here or an option for people who want to say that they don't really want to see new housing built. But further on in the survey, there is a question, I think it's in land use, that kind of discusses like no commercial development. So if we're going to offer that option of like no commercial or minimal commercial development, should we offer minimal housing development as well? It just seems like we're giving people almost these set options. And I know there's another option here, but in the interest of trying to give all possible, or trying to cover a spectrum of
Well,
possible answers.
There's one that says, well, where would you like to see new housing built?
Yeah, what if someone doesn't want to see it?
What are the choices?
New subdivision.
New subdivisions that require new roads, long existing roads with little existing development in the areas of concentrated development as part of mixed-use commercial residential development. Other, please specify.
Well, you could either add no new residential or leave it under other. To add it there to that.
So, yeah, that would be a place to put it.
I think we should add a don't.
Yeah.
Add it before other. Ken, do you see that area?
Yep.
So
No,
we-
no,
Right.
No additional residential housing or no,
Don't want to see new housing built.
Right, if we're offering that.
however the wording is for the other one.
Yeah,
I guess I kind of get it, but is that realistic?
there are people who say that.
They
you
can
know,
say it, but we're gonna build houses.
but-
Whether you put it in the survey or not, houses are gonna get built.
But maybe instead of becoming more and more of a bedroom community, people will have the opportunity to say, I want to see the community evolve in another direction.
Don't
not
build houses,
necessarily
build
a bedroom
factories.
community.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I just think developers are gonna buy property and houses are gonna
That
get
might
built.
be
I mean, it's good to know from, I guess, people's perspective. I don't think it's a realistic.
the- Yeah,
say
I
no
don't think it's
industrial?
about trying to find the realistic, what's going to happen in the future. It's getting the data point now.
so the only comment that I have with regards to adding that would be, because this is a select all that apply, do you think that having a response of no additional housing and then, I don't know, do you think that there's an opportunity for someone to also accidentally click and respond otherwise?
Development.
No, this is about residential
Oh, okay.
specifically. Maybe they want to turn the town into more of a commercial center instead of a residential.
I
center.
think this would be a good gauge to see whether the residents would prefer the development focusing on residential housing or commercial and business. I think it's a good gauge.
I mean, if someone selects don't want to see housing and in areas of concentrated development, it tells me if it's not in concentrated development, I don't want it.
Yeah.
So I think if they select more, it still tells us something.
I'm in favor of giving people a spectrum of options and not having them necessarily have to use other to write in, because that puts an onus on them in terms of time. and thinking.
So what would be the wording? Limit,
Uh,
new residential,
Limited residential development.
limited residential development.
Or apples to apples, what did we put for the commercial?
Yeah.
Well, the actual question is, where would you like to see new housing built? So the opposite would be, don't want to see new housing built.
Right, you can answer that too, exactly. I think
We have to go with what the question
Yeah,
is.
because we're in the housing, we're in the residential section.
But to your question, Scott, it was something along the lines of commercial development, minimal commercial development. So I would be in favor of saying something like minimal residential development.
And that speaks to Dave's point that houses are going to get built.
Sure, right. Maybe it's
Yeah, that's
limit.
it.
So we're using limited,
Minimum.
minimal,
Minimal, yeah.
minimal,
Consistency.
But the
What?
question is where? not
I
how
think it
much.
should still be there because you can ask people, where do you want to see new housing? And you can answer. I wouldn't want to see new housing. This is a way basically for them to answer that minimal housing.
The other ones aren't all areas. There. That's part of our mixed use. It
So
should
we're-
say
Check all that
prefer-
apply though, right?
prefer
Yeah.
minimum.
Or you can say, I would prefer to see minimal. Just throw that in as an option. That way it still fits into the question, but it's their way of answering that question. without-
Minimal residential development.
Okay.
I mean.
Or elsewhere, either works.
In Westfield.
Okay, did we get to infrastructure and services?
So we did mobility.
So it looks like the comments from Dory's comments about cable should read public access TV channel 15. I think that makes sense.
Mark, guess were your comments actually under mobility?
Yeah, they were under mobility.
Okay.
The numbers just don't line up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the numbers are
Numbers
off
are
now.
wrong. This F-17, no,
So
19 on that.
it's 19 on the hard copy. In your opinion, how important are the following transportation goals? I would say instead of goals, transportation related items.
Okay.
And then thought was to add in access to electric vehicle charging stations. Seemed to me we were deleting something.
That
No,
is it.
It's in there.
So
It's in there now? Okay,
Second from the bottom.
thank
Should
you.
be transportation needs or goals, or what'd you say?
Related items.
Related items. And on the signage, add the wayfinding, I would say add/improve. Because there may be things that we have, but they could be better.
Do you not like the word wayfinding? You just should put add and improve signage.
Oh, right, I took out wayfinding. Yep. Add or improve signage. And then under the one where it talks about improve streetscapes, it ends up at the end, it says commercial areas, it says business areas.
So back to your signage, I don't think that and we already have a sign bylaw, but the town is more responsible for wayfinding. So why did you not want directional?
I guess
The town
I
controls.
didn't know if people would understand what a wayfinding sign is. I guess they could Google it. But-
Yeah, I guess.
So you're leaning to leave it in, wayfinding.
Yeah, what's it say? 'Cause I don't have it in front of me. I'm not sure which one it is. What's it say?
Right now it
Add
says
weight.
add approved signage.
It says add wayfinding signage right now. And I suggested add/improve signage.
Okay, so that would be towards the planning board amendment to the sign bylaw.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
If people don't like it.
People think that would be signs that are in front of buildings, because that was a big to do.
Yeah, so that would be, yeah, that would be a change to the bylaw.
Say road signage?
But the question is road signage, right? Not business
I don't
signage?
know, that's what I'm
Like, is
asking.
it
Mark.
street
Is
signs?
It is under mobility,
Yeah,
transportation,
So it'd
so.
be road signage, road, yeah, I like that.
road, add or improve road
Signage, yeah.
signage.
'Cause the other is not mobility.
Yeah.
It's also recreational signage.
I think that catches up then.
I have a question about this section, though. I don't know if this may fit in mobility or infrastructure, but this thing about bike lanes. Is there any consideration about lanes for delivery vehicles? I'm thinking like Amazon vehicles that seem to obstruct traffic more and more.
Are they on main roads though?
They're
I see them
everywhere.
everywhere, and they kind of park in all directions, so. In terms of main roads, I think it's especially hazardous because in something like 202, you have big trucks going through, so when there's an Amazon truck, they're just sitting there, and they haven't done anything to even pull into the shoulder, it's,
I'm gonna play devil's advocate, you have to take private land to do that.
Yeah, those are,
That's a
they're
whole lane.
delivery vehicles. I don't know where, how you would address.
What's the premise with the bike lanes? Are we gonna take land for that as well, where would that come from, if you have that question?
Well,
Bike lanes?
actually, as part, yeah, Randy can speak to the complete streets
Yeah.
better than I, but like Congamon Road was a kind of a complete street program where they had to put, it's part of the rules now when you do a road. So if you're gonna reconstruct a road in the town, sidewalks on both sides, bike lane on both sides, so your 18-foot road suddenly becomes 30 feet wide, plus the buffer, plus the sidewalk.
Plus an Amazon lane.
Well, then,
There'd be somebody's.
right, now you can land a plane on it, I guess, but, yeah, I mean, and we did have to do takings on Congamon just to get that new road in there, so.
And then there's limitations on what we can do to the major roads anyways, because they're state roads, right?
Oh,
It's
no.
all times of state road.
That's-
So that complete streets is really, if you're using federal dollars or state dollars, then they require you to do complete streets. We do our own paving road that we wouldn't have to abide by that. We could do our
Oh,
own.
okay.
The
So-
developer doesn't have to put in, you know, a cul-de-sac.
I mean, that could be a planning board commission and still for another.
Well, if we're gonna include the question about private bike lanes, that implies that there may be the same kind of process that you just described, Doug, for Amazon trucks, right? Or, I mean, why
I
are
don't-
we
I-
including that question
I
if there isn't
see
a
how-
viable pathway to it in the first place? So.
It's all coming by drone by 2040.
That's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about bike roads.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about surveys, though. It's easy to fall into, we're trying to solution what they might answer. Just ask what you want to know, and then get the results, and figure out if it's doable or not. Don't try to solution the answers until you know what the answers are. Otherwise, you won't make yourself crazy.
So we need something related to
I don't know.
roadway safety,
Could
congestion.
that be in the last one where it says list streets and or parts of town where sidewalks and additional parking capacity should be installed? Could we add in there parts of town where additional lanes / sidewalks and additional parking, you know, not slash, comma, like added in there, so they write it in?
Yeah, it could be that, or
I mean, that's a big bucket though, so how do you know if they're answering about sidewalks or parking or lanes?
Well, they would say South Loomis needs the
You think?
additional lane.
You're assuming a lot of someone.
We have one box per question, one
Yeah.
box for sidewalks.
Yeah,
one box
yeah,
for bike lanes, one box for
Then we
parking.
don't have to fill it. Not that I like fillings.
I don't know, maybe there's a kind of more commercial aspect of those questions, like the main pickup locker area, the centralized area, instead of even thinking, like you're saying, about the solutions. The idea for me was just if we're asking people what they want to see, I know that would be something that people may want to comment on because it's an increasing issue until the drones come in. Until then, I'm not sure what area it falls into, but.
Well, let's
perhaps we could-
hold on to it
So
then
it would
and
be
see
Another option.
if we put it under infrastructure and services.
Yeah, maybe into that section, if
But
it makes sense. but-
there was a box, but I guess this next box is reasonable. It's 20 on the hard copy, but yeah, that open box is okay to keep. I thought there was a box before that, but I guess it's been taken away.
What section are you in? What's the question?
Originally, it was question 20.
In what
What
section?
was the question? Like,
Infrastructure survey.
Is it infrastructure?
Thanks, right?
Yeah.
Or was it originally? the original paper copy?
I'm guessing you really meant 20 because you actually have question 20, question 20, question 22. So it might have been 21.
But what was the question?
It just says delete this in interest of shortening, so I don't know.
Says this streets and or parts of town or sidewalks and additional parking capacity.
No, I think that one was okay.
It's still in there.
Yeah,
Marcus, it's probably number 22, where it says, why did you answer the way you did for the question above?
right. Those boxes were, yeah. I mean, in the interest of trying to cut down some on the questions.
Sure.
I agree.
I don't know, I disagree with that. Wouldn't that give us information about why?
Get their thoughts.
Yeah,
Well, the only challenge, I mean,
they can leave it blank if they don't want to do it.
I'm trying to see if we can get to a target of 30 questions, which is not easy to do. And there's, people, we don't want to delete important things, but this is something that can be discussed, reasons why can be discussed at the workshop. Just,
How do we qualify when people are writing something? Like, how does Ken get that as a tally? You know, if there's all these random things that people are putting in.
Word method. So like
Would-
frequently said words would rise to the top that
Okay.
these things are said often or whatever.
Could you change that then, instead of why did you answer, because that makes it sound like it's an obligation, and if you're just running through this, just trying to get this done in 10 minutes, it just can't. Well, some people might, they might just have 10, 15 minutes, they don't write on their answer, and then when they have to write in why, they might just skip it or close the survey at that point. I know I've done that for surveys, and I'm like, oh, I already answered, why do I have to justify it? Could you ask, do you wish to expand on any of the answers you gave for the question?
Or do you
above?
wish to say why?
Yeah, do you wish to say, do you wish to explain your answers? That way, if they're so in on, they can write, but they don't feel stuck there.
Ken, is that going to be useful information? People writing statements like that?
I mean, what's going to end up happening is you're going to have, depending on who answers that, the committee will, I don't know how long those answers may be, but the way that it will appear is every value. So everyone that puts something there, you may have, depending on how many responses you get, may have a list of 200 that you'll have to navigate, or the committee will have to figure out what can you take away from this? I don't know. I mean, I think it's helpful. It could be helpful, but at the same time, I think because, a focus group will be focused, for lack of a better term, on these various elements of the master plan, that you may be able to understand why the responses are such. When you present this in a community setting, once the survey is completed, and if you don't happen to have number 22 there, you can show that half of the respondents said that they were very satisfied with these various departments, or satisfied to very satisfied with these departments, and that could be telling in itself. And then from there, maybe engage with further questions, or allow the respondents to provide any context when you break out into groups and or have those focus groups.
We put in optional, so I don't think it's not a required box, and people that are looking to move through the survey without a whole lot of verbiage can only go to 23.
Just put optional in parentheses.
I mean, Randy, you have a lot on there. Would that be helpful to get it at the time of the survey?
I think it will be helpful, absolutely.
I think Ken's dead on. And we have a theme of people praising, our police, fire, EMTs, I think that's something we want to communicate and be proud of. Back, I think it's-
So the consensus is to leave the box in
Okay,
But note that it's
I
optional.
like that idea, that idea of putting optional.
and put optional somewhere there, Ken?
You don't feel that they
First,
have-
make it say optional, why did you, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
so that,
They can bypass it if they want.
So does that complete, let's see. Oh, no, we have, under infrastructure, the next one is potential services and amenities needed in the town of Southwick over the next 20 years. Southwick needs.
So we're done with the
Question
rate.
in the options, conservation. I get this all the time being on the conservation commission. People don't quite understand that it's not necessarily conservation of land, it's more the protection of wetlands. So I think that's a little vague because people may not understand or know that there's commission dedicated just to that. And when they see conservation, they may think, oh, what do they mean by that? Like conserving land and that. It just, there's a lot of misunderstanding in terms of what the Conservation Commission does and what's in its jurisdiction and what's not.
So that was, I'm not, where is that choice?
And I'm gonna go back to our planning board and conservation actually services. To
Where
me,
is that?
fire, police,
Yeah, I can't- we're-
you know,
So, yeah,
those are
maybe-
services. I don't think planning board and conservation are
Right,
services.
maybe it shouldn't even be
They're-
there in terms of. maybe it's
So,
a different
We
section,
went
but,
back,
What
Yeah,
number is
No,
this
this is
now?
under
Where?
infrastructure and services, please rate each of the following.
It's number
services.
21
It's under
on the
police,
screen.
fire, EMT, it's between Board of Health Services and cable on my version.
I would be in favor of ending that at Board of Health Services.
Actual services that,
Because conservation, we already have stuff in land use, we're asking about cable 15 TV, it doesn't really matter, like, we're obligated to have it.
yeah,
Recreation, we already asked questions about, schools, we have questions about later, about
we're getting down
perception.
to 30 now.
So like, let's just cut those last four.
right,
Maybe
Yeah.
that's.
Because they're not like taxpayer
They're not
services.
yeah.
They're, I agree with that.
So Ken, the suggestion is to remove those four: conservation, channel 15, recreation and schools.
And my question is, why does it say rank 1 to 5 and then we have 2 blank? Like, is that the way the survey is set up? It has to have 5 options.
you can eliminate those. This was just from class.
Right?
Yeah, 2
Yeah.
and 4 are blank all the way through. To me, that's kind of like, am I supposed to, like,
How it was like those.
Not satisfied or
I think because we took
less
those out, right? So we went from 5 options to 3.
I don't even know.
I can see how it's confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, what happened is two,
Five.
right?
I mean, unless you're gonna write it, less satisfied and less. I just don't.
Median
You're
settlement.
either not satisfied
Sort of.
or satisfied.
So you hear the discussion, Ken, of taking out the 2 and 4.
And then you'd have to change the first line, so it says, rate each of the following services that are provided in Southwick from 1 to 3.
You do that, you're gonna get.
I wouldn't even put the numbers.
No, you're fine too.
You don't need
I'll just remove all the numbers.
Right,
Yeah,
you don't need the numbers because you explain the thing is right next to it.
I still think we need to keep 5 though, because it's, you can like, sort of not like it, but that's not meeting it. So I think we just need to define that 2 is somewhat unsatisfied and somewhat satisfied, or whatever word you want to use for somewhat.
description.
Yeah, either pull them out or just
so
have
that it's
description.
clear. What is 2? It's unclear what 2 is. Is that math?
Ken, is that scale? Do you need the 5-point scale or 1, 3, and 5? It's fine.
You don't. I mean, what's going to end up happening? It's not necessarily attached to any sort of numerical function other than you're going to see that even if we just labeled these, they're not satisfied, neutral, satisfied, very satisfied, or if there's something in between, not satisfied and neutral, you'll see that 72% say that they were very satisfied or satisfied. The numbers don't matter, but if you want to have,
Oh, let's take the numbers out then to keep it less confusing.
Then are we defining 2 and 4, or are we taking them out?
We'll define all of them, right?
Okay.
In the interest of taking out the numbers, is that what you're saying? Like,
Yes,
okay. so
taking out the numbers because they're not really
It's too much.
used. And then the question is, do you want to keep 2 and 4?
What would you say?
And, but they would be some kind of description rather than a number.
I think that would be good. What would- yeah.
So somewhat unsatisfied and.
That's what you typically see.
Yeah.
Surveys.
Somewhat.
And what we do in the, like, right below it.
Somewhat satisfied or somewhat unsatisfied and somewhat satisfied on each side of neutral.
Dissatisfied.
Number 2 could say needs improvement.
So number 1 needs to be stronger, like,
Just unsatisfied, right? Like,
Yeah, unsatisfied.
hate it, sort of hate it, love it,
No,
don't care.
These are common questions in customer satisfaction surveys that's involved lives or something.
so what's the term that's used? Unsatisfied?
Yeah, say, let's say extremely unsatisfied, satisfied.
Yeah.
Perfect.
2 and 4.
Good.
Go with
I
that.
like that.
Make a motion to use
Did you
that.
hear that?
Yes. Ken, did you hear it? Extremely unsatisfied. Next
unsatisfied.
one, Corey, please. Unsatisfied?
Unsatisfied.
Unsatisfied would be for the 2 column
Yep,
without the 2. Neutral. Next
And
one,
then you can say, satisfied or somewhat satisfied.
somewhat satisfied
Very.
would be replacing 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, extremely instead of.
It's gotta
very.
match.
Unsatisfied.
Yeah, it's gotta match that.
Yeah, make them match.
And then on the right, then it's extremely satisfied.
And that has to change for all of them.
And then you have one that do not use, right?
Right, we still have do not use.
Gotta have that.
So is it somewhat unsatisfied? Second one down?
Yes. And extremely on both ends.
yep.
Okay. And then we have an open box, which we said we were going to keep. But we say that's optional. And then we get to the next one, which is the services. Amenities.
Okay, so we got rid of conservation.
Are we okay with the headings across there? Strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree, no opinion. Good, good.
Marcus, what was your question 22 at the time that you wanted to delete it? That you said was
Remember
covered in
now.
19?
I'll let it pass. I think it's over maybe on one of the other ones. But no, I guess not. It would have been 22 and we decided to keep it and yeah, it's fine.
So we're good with 21 now?
What's it say?
Before we talk about 22, we're good with the 21 we just said? That's the one where we need more grocery stores, do we need more restaurants?
No, that's, well, yeah, I don't know.
That's 23 now.
I have it as 23.
Trying to keep up.
I know, it's
I'm on
not-
the
It's
app.
really hard. on
Yeah.
that.
On the old one too.
So 23, I didn't hear any issues with that. So then we get to the,
Did you have any changes to that?
No.
do you use public drinking water? Yes, no. Are you
What's the
connected to
purpose
the
of that
town
question?
sewer system? Yes,
What's the
no.
purpose of these questions by themselves?
Yeah.
What are we gonna get into questions by themselves?
If you hit yes, it does pop up another question. Is the quality of town public drinking water acceptable? You hit no. Would you like public drinking water if available to your home?
And then your phone number pops up.
So the question, Ken, was, and Dory apparently has the, how that connects to another question, if you say yes or no.
Yeah, those, so for that, do you use public drinking water, as Dory mentioned? If you choose yes, there's a pop-up question. If you choose no, there's a pop question. And then for number 27, which is, are you connected to the town sewer system? If you choose no, are you interested in sewer expansion coming to your street?
And Tori just had a good question. What's the, how does this look like, these two questions, for the paper version?
It's, I mean, it's going to be spelled out where if you said yes, you're going to have this question. If you said no, this is the question you answer. So it's, we're going to figure out how to either color code or direct the person either with bold fonts or bold formatting. But that's the only way to get through the written version.
Are we gonna do a review of the written version as well? Just to make sure.
Not tonight. We have to get, the written version will come after this is finalized.
Just to make sure functionality on the written version.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Randy, is that helpful to you?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I didn't see that pop up before, so.
Which question are we on right now?
We are on, are you connected to the town sewer system?
Which is 23 us.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I missed in 21, it said Southwick needs year-round farmers market and locally grown products. We live in New England. How are we gonna have year-round farmers market? and-
Greenhouses?
I think it's what she said, if, don't try to
Okay,
solve the problem
Yeah.
until you identified the,
There are farms in
problem.
Suffield that grow lettuce year round.
This is the need, and then the how-to
Yep, got
we
it.
would figure out if it's important to people.
I'm not volunteering to stand out there in February selling it at the farmer's market.
Too late.
Okay, is the next question related to the town evolving? I don't know.
Yes.
That's the form of government?
24. Oh,
Yeah.
The numbers change.
The numbers change because you don't see the pop-ups. These are all of the questions.
So, all right. So this is the one related to government form.
Correct.
Are those, I guess those are all official legal choices.
So I guess my only concern is the way it's worded, right? As the town evolves, which form of government would you support, right? So, you know, when do we know when that needs to come into effect? If everybody says we need to go to mayor, council, I mean, is there a magic number that we say, when we get to 10,000, we're gonna click that or 12 or what have you? I mean, I just don't want people to think just because they voted for it, it's gonna happen tomorrow, right? There has to be, there's a mechanism for these things to happen.
That's why we talked about that wording a lot, which is where we landed on, there is the potential.
Change the structure
Yeah, so,
based on population.
and this is not a vote.
So it
right.
says.
No, I get it, I get that.
Should we include based on population to
Well, it
change
says
the
and
structure of
population
government?
increases.
I mean, it
Although
says
not
that.
required.
Did you say?
Yeah, that's a good one.
But my
As the
understanding was the
population
different,
increases.
like an open town and a representative town could both happen now. The other two were at, one was at 10 and one was at 12, I thought. So even if we tried to tie a population to it, it depends on what we pick.
Right, right. I mean, just, we're a long way from there.
As Southwick evolves over the next 20 years and the population increases, if the population increases, we should probably say. Didn't we have a decrease?
Yes, we do.
So as Southwick evolves over the next 20 years, and if the population increases, there's a potential to change the structure of the government. Which form of government would you support?
So instead of the, Ken, it's if,
If everybody-
or if the population, and if the population.
Is there
There's two different triggers.
automatic?
No, I think you still have to
make
vote
that
on
decision.
it.
You still have to vote on it. We
We'd have
can
to
say
go
that-
to a town meeting to vote to not have town meeting.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
Okay, how, does that help you out there,
That's why it
David?
says
All
there's a
100 people,
change.
yes.
There was
Very
like
good.
144.
133 at least.
Yeah, right.
150, give or take
Yeah,
10.
that was my back of the envelope too, Diane, you're right. What was about?
All right, the next one is related to schools, which is very open-ended.
Ken, do
And
you mind zooming in just a little bit? I'm trying to just follow on your screen, on my screen, since it's different.
could you enlarge?
Yeah, I'm just zooming in a tiny bit.
We asked
Is that better?
I don't think it changed actually. It looks the
I think it's very open. It's just there's one that's asks you if you're satisfied. And then what's your
That's a
perception?
little better, yes, thank you.
We took out the satisfied.
Oh, we did.
We just cut that. That was one of the ones that came out.
Okay.
And then the thought behind this was, so number 25 was for people who may or may not have children in the school. You still are entitled to your opinions. Where 26 is sort of focusing on why you have children that may be leaving town to go elsewhere, and how do we keep them in town?
So we potentially want people to answer this even if they don't have kids in public school. I guess to me, me reading this, I was thinking like this doesn't apply to me because I don't have kids in the public school and I wouldn't know how to answer. Like, I
Then you
don't know.
could just leave it blank or
Maybe-
say, I don't
Or
know.
maybe we should say,
Or
that you can answer this if you do or if you do not have.
I still gave my perception.
Or change it
As
so,
a resident,
Just so they know that they can if,
Are you looking at the perception one?
yeah.
so we can change this location because that 31 is our 26, which first question is, I do not have children, you've got a checkbox option here. I do not have children, my children are not in school. And they skip right on past that question if they want to.
What's the flip?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought. it was odd
After, yeah,
how it
after
asked
you
for comments
ask where your
prior to-
children are, then ask your perception.
But we weren't
Right.
trying to narrow it down. People who only had children in the school. I feel like if you put it the other way, people are gonna feel like they can't answer if they don't have children.
Right, that's what I was saying. I think maybe we should put like, I don't know, in parentheses or something that,
Regardless of,
regardless of whether or not you have school age kids in the public school systems, you can answer this.
How about as a
Would you-
resident of Southwick, what's your
Yeah,
perception of the
there.
school?
Yeah,
As a resident
Mhm.
of Southwick, what is your perception of Southwick?
Then it
Or
qualifies.
maybe you don't have to say Southwick twice.
Or a business owner.
Yeah, you just
Yeah,
said,
that way
I
we
think
can
the
get-
question's fine. Because we had 5 qualifying questions of people that may not live in town, they work in town, they're filling a survey out.
What's your?
Maybe they
perception?
don't live in town because their perception of schools is they're bad, right?
Disagree.
I'm just putting that out there
Yeah,
and
so
saying,
leave
okay,
it.
Yeah.
or maybe it's they're awesome and they can't wait to move here.
Right,
exactly,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. So leave it. Yeah.
Dory, in all seriousness, I think that part of this master plan piece is you will get people maybe that fill this out trying to think that I would like to somehow get to Southwick at some point in the future. So this is my opportunity to provide my input towards that.
All right, so
Leave it.
now it looks like no change.
Okay.
Right, agreed.
And the next one was, where does your child, children, not children.
My child's friends, actually.
I changed it, Marcus.
All right.
They run in the streets.
I know you put it in there just so you wanted to check that we were reading this,
Ken obviously did not go to the Southwick school.
right? Select all that apply, and we have those choices underneath.
It's then if they check anything, public school out of town, public school choice out of town down, it does pop up a Y.
Under that box, Y here, okay.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Public school choice out
I
of
checked
town,
something
Y.
different, so I didn't get it.
Is this more of a demographics question as opposed to a services question?
It came about because there was like some articles recently written by the superintendent about how we're losing a significant portion to other school districts. So it's kind of gathering information on why, is there ways that the school can change the town to keep residents in town?
Education is a service.
Is that through school choice? Is that what you're, or is
All
it
different.
All
simply?
different stuff.
Yeah.
I don't use school, town school.
I
whatever.
didn't use high school.
Okay, choices are good. We're over to land use.
I didn't grow up here.
Land use. Southwick currently has 9,232 residents, according to the most recent census. Population decreased. Should we maybe take that statement out, since the questions afterward kind of imply growth, and that statement implies growth?
I know there's some questions about the accuracy of these numbers too.
Right.
Talking to the town
Yeah.
clerk, so.
And we're not
We
asking
can
for-
remove that.
We should remove.
I think we should.
We're gonna be presenting that information anyway.
What's that?
That'll be part of the presentation when we talk about demographics. So
Okay.
we don't need to put it.
Right. Just take it out and we'll go straight to the question. What type of strategies should the town adopt to address future growth? Please check the answer you agree with.
Can we capitalize please, please?
Oh, please, yes.
Throughout.
Capitalize, please.
Yep.
I don't think I had a comment on this. 28.
The IE to DG.
Can't hear Corey's.
There's one that where it says toward the back, it says increase mobile options for non-motorized vehicles, i.e. bicycles. I'm assuming we need, for example, bike lanes. DG is, for example, IE is another word.
So instead of IE, what we use?
EG.
EG instead of IE on that next to the last.
Proceed.
Ken, do you see that?
Yep.
Okay.
So I had a question about the adopt zoning for higher density residential development. Does that belong here in land use, or does that really belong in housing?
It's land use, that'd be a bylaw.
Yeah, I would say land use
It would be a bylaw, we have to change the.
because it relates to how much land you consume to produce.
But right now, I
So
feel like you
many
guys are
dwelling
talking like
units.
planning board people. Put yourself in like the average resident. When you're talking to me about housing, should we all live on smaller plots as a housing thing? I don't really care about the bylaw. You're asking me, should we live on
Don't we
smaller
ask that
plots?
about the half acre or something? That's
Quarter acre, yeah, somewhere. Here,
here.
in land use.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But that to me is like housing. I don't really care what you call it in the planning board meetings.
Oh, it's land use. I would say.
I think regardless of where it is, people are gonna be able to understand the question. Right, the title, the heading it's under, it's the question.
Yeah, by the time you get to the question, you don't know what heading you're under, really. I didn't think.
And then does higher density mean multifamily housing? Does it mean smaller lots? Does it mean both of those? I don't know what that means.
I can't see where, oh, higher density.
I think maybe giving examples so that people know that's just very technical language.
We gave examples of agribusiness, maybe let's give examples of higher
Well,
density.
didn't it say high density 4 acre lot? Wasn't it all in the same?
It just says adopt zoning for higher density residential development, oppose, indifferent, or support.
What number are you on?
I'm on
28
28
here.
on ours
31 on the paper copy.
and 33 on the street.
Bingo.
Thank you. And the winner is, it's under what type of strategy should the town adopt to address future
One of
growth?
them, yeah, one of them.
It's in the high 20s or 30s.
Adopt zoning.
It's one of those, it's 28, but 28 will have like.
There's a bunch
The
of.
multiple question, yeah,
Okay.
sub question.
You can do it on the app.
Ken, do you have any alternative wording that the layperson would understand better?
Well, I mean, a suggestion that I could pose is adopt zoning for higher density residential development. And then figure out however I want to show that, but like more dwelling units per acre. I don't know, something like that.
It could be a lot. It could be condos, it could be apartments, it could be, you know,
Examples.
smaller zoned lots.
So then let's just give those examples.
Yeah, ED,
Smaller
condos.
lots, multifamily housing.
Yeah. Is that kind of-
So just put
Yeah, just examples of like,
Do an
Condos,
do an
apartments.
EG, put an EG and a couple items that the
Make their brains
layperson
start to think.
could think about.
And then do we actually want to separate those? Because I feel like there's a different aptitude for smaller lots than multifamily housing.
We're gonna go over 30. Just kidding.
We might go over 40.
Aren't there questions asking? So, I'm sorry, this is my 27 or 28.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Exactly.
aren't there questions further down the road here that specifically ask about multi and duplexes and such? Or is that back at housing?
I'm gonna go back to housing.
it's here.
So then it's like, why are we asking again here?
Right.
Because this is land use,
Yeah, but
So is the house.
where you put the houses.
Not all of us are on the planning board. Like,
yeah, no,
it
I
doesn't-
think if you ask it in one place, you don't.
And
If it's been asked under housing, then we could take it out of here.
Is the goal of this question to understand if people want the land in town to be used for more development for housing? Is that the purpose of the question? I'm just trying to understand why it's here.
Well, more compact. They want the land use for housing, but it's more compact. You consume less land.
Right, but is the purpose of having the question here in land use to understand if people want land to be used in that way? What I guess what I'm trying to understand is what is the data that we're trying to get from this in relation to land use specifically?
Because when it's
That's
based in
not
housing,
enough.
it's more like, what do you want? Do you want an apartment or condo? And then this is,
So the housing one that like Scott was referring to is on a scale of 1 to 5. I would like to see the town provide affordable and accessible housing options by promoting development of and support towards. And there's something in there about smaller lots, duplexes and 3-family homes, townhouses, condos, in-law apartments, single family to multifamily, tiny homes, apartments, ADA compliance, and then financing options for rehabbing limited income homes.
So that's the type of housing.
but we're,
I mean, we want to cut to the chase and say, do you want to see open space turned into housing? Is that what we're trying to understand in this? I mean,
No,
what are we trying to get with this?
Yeah,
I
question,
think,
guess?
I agree with Marissa that the question, and this question is encouraging a ton of bias too.
Right.
And can you close the radio button grid for a minute? Ken, I hate to torture you. But in here, it doesn't say, there's not one that says Southwick's perfect, don't change the thing. There's not one that says encourage business development by expanding land zone for business use and update boundaries of zoning districts. One could make the convincing argument that the zoning we have today for business use is adequate. We don't need more. We don't even need to redefine it. It's adequate. It's what goes there or what have you,
That's
open
it.
for great discussion, right? And we've had some great discussions about that. And we need to continue that discussion. And then further down, there's two particular questions about particular business. I don't think it's relevant as worthy as they are. It doesn't say, and maybe there should be a section of what type of business would you like to see in town? Should we encourage agritourism and agribusiness, right? Those are great. I don't think anyone, well, someone could be opposed to it. Have to ask 10 people in town, you'll find one, I'm sure. But it would be, I don't think it belongs here. Same thing, I don't think that the mobility options for non-motorized vehicles addresses growth per se. That might be something that a strategy the town should take to address. There was a question about traffic or increased traffic. That's a great place to do it. And also, we've kind of gotten a little policy wonked around all of this stuff, and we're all getting really, really smart on zoning and all this stuff. But it's the average person reading this, I think, is not going to be able to pull this together. And I think that's what you're kind of struggling to, and so am I, as far as, how do you frame this up so that you get the answer that the person's thinking, not the answer you want, right? And I don't know that.
So let's take it out. Adopt zoning for higher density residential development, just delete it.
Well,
I think that makes sense to just change it in a different section and maybe reframe it.
Yeah,
with
I
all
mean,
of the
we've got a
options.
pie and you only have so many pieces of the pie, right? And residential development is a piece of that pie, so you can't take it out of there. You just have to ask them in a different manner, how much residential development do you want as a percentage of that pie moving forward?
But Dave, I agree with you. But part of that is you can preserve open space by having higher density residential development.
Right.
You can preserve, and if that's an overarching goal, and I don't think that anyone's going to argue with that one, you can preserve open space and increase mobility by having mixed use. So you don't have to get in your car to go from, wherever to wherever, because you can walk or bike or whatever, because it's all right there, right? It becomes a walkable, livable community in that regard.
Which are very popular.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's my point. And so I think you can get to that. That's what we're trying to get at here in a way, but
I just don't think we're articulating it well.
hell, I'm not articulating what I'm trying to say right now very well.
Yeah, along what Doug's saying too, 28, the third one, whatever number it is, the third one down, we tried to take out support, limit, promote, whatever, and just make oppose and support. But then in this one, we say encourage business development. So that's also not, and it's same thing, encourage agritourism, agribusiness. We were trying to take the verbs out. So this whole section just feels like we threw everything in one question.
It's like the whole survey could be this
Yeah.
one.
And it's like, do you
question,
support it
and
or
we're done.
oppose it?
So you want to keep something in related to
I think this needs to be split by like,
density.
Questions in this section are important and we need to include them somehow because they all correlate to each other and affect each other. You can't talk about open space again without talking about residential development or higher density if you want to preserve open space, like I'm just saying. But
The
I
key,
don't know if people are going to see those connections here and answer that accurately. And they may answer with bias if they're thinking about the question about agritourism. They may just see some sort of cognitive dissonance with some of these questions and feel like they can't answer about higher density necessarily because they want to support agritourism. I don't know, there's just something here that.
This is our junk drawer right now.
What's that?
This is the junk drawer in your kitchen right now.
It's got useful stuff, you know that there's good stuff
It just
in
doesn't
there,
belong
yeah.
to each other.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
too much.
And it's really hard to organize it. It's the junk drawer.
Yeah, we have 3.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you gotta look at the what and the how to is gonna come through the focus groups and the interaction. The key is to draw out what people are inclined to want.
Do we go back to
Without
like, what
bias.
kind of growth would you like to see? None. Commercial, residential, whatever, and like start there.
you
And
could
then
have
what
it be
types of
all
industry would you
applied.
like to see? Agritourism, agriculture, insert all these other options, like
So you're saying break it into
a few.
a couple questions.
One could be strictly, yeah, like land use, right? Business, residential, open space, and then the type of businesses, agribusiness, restaurants, what have you. Because we ask, do we want more restaurants? Do we want, there are a lot of different questions, but.
We're asking that, yeah, we've asked that. So we have a quandary, Ken, too many items in
Fix it,
here.
They're all good items, that's the thing. I think they just need to be rearranged and given a little bit more of a spectrum so that people can answer within that spectrum and not be led into.
Got any help for us, Ken?
Well, I know that number 34, as it appears on the shared screen, suggests if you want non-residential development, you'd be able to answer what types of businesses, where. So maybe you can remove some of those questions about those types of businesses where we talk about agribusiness, agritourism, encourage business development by expanding land zoned for business use and for light industrial use. Can remove those from this radio grid up here on number 33. And that will address some of the discussion about the land uses and those zoning districts where those types of businesses could be found.
Along that same vein, should it really be, should the town encourage or discourage? And then the answer instead of yes, no would be encourage, discourage, or no change.
We actually even need 34 and 35 with how comprehensive 33 is.
Well, it would let us take a lot out of 33.
If we ditch the last two, 34 and 35.
If we keep them.
You're saying that 33, Dory, would be, or 34 would be akin to the section on top, and that all of the things that we would take out, like agribusiness or the business questions would go
Yeah,
in there.
take
so
business
people would-
questions out of there. It's use the bottom
Right.
34 and 35 to answer those questions.
Because even that feels like, we want to know if the residents, if the respondents want more of something. The first 3 are like how, like, we want to promote non-residential development. Those are just how later. And I feel like that's where you get into, okay, 55% of the towns that they want non-residential, how should we do that? And that's what those community sessions are for.
I feel like the fact that 34 doesn't open to anything else if you answer no is kind of confusing too, because some people may not even understand what non-residential development means, and they're just gonna hit no and they move on. Whereas if they hit yes, they get all of these different categories: business, industrial, office, agricultural. And I feel like they should be faced
We could
with
put them
that.
in the question.
Right, include it in the question itself, because I think you're missing out on an opportunity there, because some people may just answer no, because they don't even know what that means.
So combine 34.
Or just take some questions from 33 and turn them into 34, and then 35 of them would fit into that. That way you're forcing people to almost answer yes or no, but have those categories for them. Otherwise, non-residential development, I mean, it's too.
Yeah, my feeling was, but I wasn't looking at anything expanding under that, was to take that question out. So sounds like there's more in that question. Should the town encourage additional non-residential development? So if you answer yes, then you get a list of choices. So I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm looking here, Marissa, so there are questions either behind or coming up, I don't know where I am on this thing anymore. But they address, support acquisition of open space for passive and active recreation. Support acquisition of public lands for wildlife preservation. So I think there's questions that actually drill down into what that confusion over that definition is.
Right.
So we're gonna get specifics about what people want as far as, I think, what you're talking about, from just a land preservation standpoint.
I guess I wasn't really thinking about land preservation. I was thinking about non-residential development and people being able to answer that. And understanding what the options are of non-residential development.
I mean, maybe it's as easy as just putting, should the town encourage additional non-residential development like business, industrial, office, agricultural uses? And then,
Yeah, that's fine.
and then the logic is if they choose yes, then you have the same pop-up where you can put in what type of development and where.
That would then take out the options of agritourism and agribusiness in that previous question, if agriculture is going to be a category on 35.
Yes, it would also probably be take out the question, the choice up top that says encourage business development by expanding land zone for business use and for light industrial use. And updating boundaries of zoning districts to designate those types of uses for development.
I think it's great that you, just as an example, the agritourism, agribusiness, I think it's great you included examples just so that people can, once again, make the connection in their mind, what the examples are. But if those can be moved down to 35/34, whatever that is, that's going to turn just into one possibly.
So this is all under the land use section. Yeah.
I just don't like, I guess, short of it is that I don't like that if you answer no to not encouraging additional non-residential development, it's like you don't get to really opine on any of those other things that I think are important: business development, industrial development, office development, agricultural. I feel like people should have to say something about those, whether they, want to discourage it or encourage it.
So again, why do we need 34?
Right. Basically,
Like,
combine.
why do we need? Should we just get rid of it? It's very open.
Like, check the boxes that we should encourage. Or something, should I just say?
Let's see, if you, what did you say? Yeah, we'd almost put the.
It should be encouraged.
Yeah.
Just the-
Should be encouraged. Or
We could say like the following types of development should be encouraged, check all that apply and
Yeah.
indicate where. And then they see it automatically. We can
But
give
do we
it.
want the what as well?
Well, that's why they could check, like, say I want office and agricultural, I would check office type ware, agricultural type ware.
But what type?
Yeah, what, like,
What
yeah, what
type of
kind of
office
business?
building do you want? Well,
Good examples again, you know?
I mean, agricultural and. I don't know, I think it's very clear in a way, you know, office space is office space.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory.
I mean, we could
But
say
it is
like,
business, office space is business.
yeah, do we need retail?
Yeah, retail, industrial, office, agricultural.
But we could go back to in agricultural, things like agribusiness CSAs.
Right. So that they
But
know.
then you have to get specific with business too, and start listing different types of businesses.
We should, retail stores, restaurants.
Yeah.
So the one that's showing up here as 35, instead of business, we say retail.
Not instead, they wanted to list.
We add one. You want to add a box?
Or we-
I think it seems to be thinking right now, are all the types of businesses we have in town today. So there's all the kinds of businesses that tomorrow. And now, so if you're gonna list businesses, you have to, again, merge them out of 2022 thinking. And see, you know, are there high-tech type businesses? Are there agricultural type businesses? Are there things related to automation type businesses? Places where we help companies start up, and then we will keep them there if they fit. So
Even
we don't wanna leave
services.
them
we do it
business,
under-
but we also want to nudge them out of 2022 type stuff they see and drive them down to it too.
So what are you suggesting, Corey, to add something?
Well, if you're gonna list businesses, you have to list the types of businesses today and tomorrow, otherwise you'll end up with the same. So we give them some ideas. This is why it's too late now, you guys have done a really good job here. But I was suggesting at the beginning of each question, you remind them where the trending is going in each of these areas. But we can do that in another way. But what we really should almost lead with the businesses of the future. And then also, would you like to see more of what we already have, the more types of business we are? Because otherwise, we're going to formal.
A bit more future in all the questions overall. I agree, yeah. I am overall concerned a little bit because it's been so present based for the most part, and we haven't necessarily thought about the trends as much, that we're gonna get people who are just writing about the now and not necessarily giving the speculative future answers or futuring really. So I think this is especially a question that needs future, encourage futuring. It's development.
So we never got through the previous question.
No.
Which we need to do somehow. It sounded like folks wanted to break it into more than one. What type of strategy should the town adopt to address future growth? Please check the answer you agree with. Do we want to separate these? Take some out because they're going to be handled somewhere else.
I sort of feel like we could cut everything until you get to continue to educate landowners and then keep those, because they sort of focus on actually conservation and preservation and recreation, and all that stuff on top rolls into the 35 reformatting.
Yeah, I agree with Dory. I think some of the bottom questions aren't reflected elsewhere.
They are what?
I don't believe some of the bottom ones are not reflected elsewhere in the survey as well. Where support acquisition of public lands for recreation, I don't recall seeing that anywhere else. And I think we should get the feedback from the people, if they want more recreation area.
Okay, so if we start, or if we take out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items, they go into where?
I think they're addressed in 34 and 35.
They would
They
be
will be,
items
I
that
think.
would show up as choices in 34 and 35.
So to Corey's point, thinking futuring, do we need like, this is not on the land, airspace? Is there like places where drones land or like, is there a drone? I don't know anything about drones,
From the air shop.
obviously.
Where they fly, like.
The drone board.
So although it's not literally on the land, do we need to ask about airspace? Is that land use?
We've always got a box at the bottom that says enter another option.
But we need to lead people a little bit with the future. That's,
Yeah, like Corey was saying,
otherwise they're
that,
not
you
gonna.
know, whether it's incubator or,
Yeah,
I mean, some people aren't gonna know what those terms are because they're future terms. You know, they're really, what the hell is that, you know? So they're not gonna check it because they don't know what it is.
right.
That's why you have to sort of think about.
So you're saying in the introductory statement, we should say something more relative to future growth. And we're taking those first 8 items and putting them into choices under 34 and 35.
I think it's probably just providing examples of what a business, industrial, office, agricultural use are. I would say though that if you're removing all of those first 8, these are very specific to like open space concepts. So this should go further down. Like this is no longer like addressing, it is addressing future growth, but I think they're concepts that are probably related to some of the questions that are below, which talk about recreation and the various types of activities.
5 questions or 4 questions, or I guess 5 questions are very much about zoning and land use. So I feel like it does relate to development, but it's almost its own category. I mean, it has the word zoning in 4 out of the 5.
So it's a land use control. Should we have a separate question?
They're very specific strategies.
Or put it under, you're suggesting put it under 34, 35. Can we get those in 34 and 35, Ken? Those first 8 items.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Hello?
This is Jessica Thornton zooming in from home. May I offer a suggestion here?
Sure.
Thank you, I appreciate it. It sounds like this question is moving away from its original intent, which coming into this sounds like you were looking to see what type of zoning you want the residents to identify as either needing an increase, a decrease, or a stay the same. So perhaps cleaning up this question as could read more along the lines of the planning board or the town has the option to adopt zoning changes that would allow for increases or perhaps decreases in certain growth within town. And then offer categories of residential. Would you like to see more or less stay the same? Light industrial, more or less stay the same. And perhaps you could limit that down to just a few areas, and then these more specific questions could be parceled out into the other areas of the survey. And this way you would kind of focus in on people's ideas of zoning throughout town and how much land should be used for those particular categories in general. Thank you for allowing me to interrupt and offer that suggestion.
Thank you, Jessica.
Those aren't your first questions in the second.
Any thoughts on that? Committee members?
The person, yeah.
It relates to land use. Zoning is a land use control
Well, should it
mechanism.
say what type of zoning strategy should the town adopt to address future growth? Would you want to come right out and say it?
Really, it's the
Your
planning board.
average
not the
resident
town.
can understand the process of zoning changes and rules and regulations.
No, no,
In a way, it's land use strategies.
Yeah.
What type of land use strategies? Those first 8. Any help here to get past this impasse that we've talked about for a half hour?
Right?
yeah, same with, was it 16, 17 last time?
Yeah, listen, I think we all have junk drawers and maybe we need one. So why don't we just keep it and move on? It asks a lot of questions. We'll separate it all out later on. Maybe we can sit here till tomorrow discussing.
Like-
Keep it as is.
Yeah.
We can take out the meeting witness.
We'll just revisit this later.
Throw up our hands and say,
Yes, go to
we
the-
can't revisit later. We're.
But yeah, there are a lot of leading, like, support acquisition. Acquisition of public lands, like, you know,
That third one down is just great, expanding land zone for boulevard.
I think Marcus's question, yeah, the question, land use.
What type of land use strategies
Right,
should the town adapt to address future
yeah,
growth?
strategies, and I feel like questions 1 through 6, 7 and 8 go down to development because they're more business questions. And then 9 through the end, those are all strategies as well. In terms of land use, I just feel like agritourism isn't necessarily zoning thing, nor is agribusiness. It's zoning in the sense that you need land that's zoned for that, but that's
It's really what
neither
are
here nor
the development strategies, isn't it?
Right, exactly. Those two, agritourism and agribusiness, those are under development, I think. And then the rest of these questions, I think, would fall under the new title that Marcus just gave us, because they are about land use and zoning.
So land use development strategies.
No, I think it'd just be land use.
What, just land use?
Because development is the second 34/35, whether that's 1 or 2.
Okay. So we get the first 8,
Verse 6.
6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
and then you skip later.
And then I feel like agritourism and agribusiness could be examples of agricultural developments.
Okay, so they can go to 34 and 35.
Right.
All the rest,
Not all the rest, just those two.
just those 2?
Right, because then you start to ask people after encourage agribusiness, the next question is continue to educate landowners about options. I mean, that's a strategy for land use, giving people the option to conserve their land. So I feel like that's a strategy, and all the other questions below that are kind of strategy as well.
So you're just taking those 2 out.
Right,
So we would change the title slightly,
to what you said.
land use strategies, and we just take out encourage agritourism and, or move it, encourage
Move it down
agribusiness
to
to
35.
35,
As some of
and
the
then
examples.
continue on with, keep the others.
Yeah.
All right,
You get that, Ken?
how we doing, Ken?
But instead of what type, it should be,
So-
do you support or oppose these land use strategies? Because that's what
Oh,
the
yeah,
chart
yeah,
is asking them to do is this one.
What, in the intro, in the question itself?
Yeah, do you oppose or support these strategies?
So the second part, instead of please check, do you support or oppose these strategies?
Yes.
And I think that would be the word these where you're typing right now. And then, do you support or oppose these land use strategies to address future growth?
Pretty complicated, but I think we got it. Hopefully,
It can't get it.
is it looking better?
I don't necessarily know how to include agritourism and agribusiness in this particular question. Other than this way.
Yeah.
Without,
Each be their own thing.
Are we, well, do you mean in terms of including examples for each of those development categories, like?
They are separate enough to have those two choices.
so,
You would have it under agriculture?
so put, instead of just agriculture, put agritourism as a one example and then agribusiness as the other.
But instead of having it say, do you want this and where? Because that's gonna be decided at a public hearing or something. How about, do you want this and what type? So then they can fill it in, whether they want agritourism or business, they want, incubator space. We get some ideas then of what people might want instead of where they want it. We can figure out where it's gonna be later on. But for them to say, I want agribusiness at 228 South Loomis Street, like,
So take out the
Where.
and where.
and put like what type,
type
and then
of
have that be the
development.
fill in. Because then we'll get some great ideas, hopefully, of what people are looking for, like industrial, they'll say, I don't know, what type of industries, but like, robotics or. they
Drone
might-
factory.
Yeah, you never know what they might put, and that'll give us a little bit more to work with.
So instead of it being a yes, no, do we just say what type of development should be encouraged and be one of the options, none?
Yeah.
And then they check on it, instead of making it a logic question,
What type?
Is this where now you add residential?
these are right, that's.
Oh, yeah, residential should be in it.
Yeah, yeah. Type of development, yeah. Good.
And then you need a none, just. And then Marisa asked if we were adding examples, where did we land on that?
We'll have it be fill in instead of where. What, change the beginning of it. It says which type of development should be encouraged, it's covered up right now. And specifically what type or something like that.
Or were we going to give them EPs, I guess, like business, what?
There's just so many. Like, I don't want to cap it, I don't want to cap it to the three choices that we might write down.
Right.
So I'm removing the, this leading question.
Yeah, I would agree to remove that.
Then we say what type of development should we encourage.
That even the most recent couple of businesses that have been proposed and gotten a lot of people looked up, that to them, that's business. And so they're afraid to say yes because there's specific types of businesses that they adamantly oppose. There they might, yes, I wish we would do that.
Yeah, and you should have retail
Take 34 out.
services.
Right. Some examples. Some people may have not known, for instance, they're distinguished, the most recent proponent of last summer, as industrial necessarily. They might have just thought of that as business, so they may not even know. I mean, we just have different semantics, I think, so we
Yeah.
need to kind of,
To
not
me,
lead,
industrial.
just make sure we're speaking the same language.
Right. Take part on it.
And they can write this,
It's a
it's a
business. That wasn't an industry, that was a business.
So are you taking out the,
under other.
we're gonna take out 34?
Yeah, I'll delete that after, just because I need to figure out if this logic is, I don't want to like retype this, so I'm just gonna leave it there and then remove it.
And then people are saying we should have at least some examples under the different ones.
Are there specific ones that you want me to put in
And
there?
what people are saying here, you want some examples or just leave it open? People create their own.
Office, I'm not sure what that means. Is it the office to industrial building?
No, office.
Are we talking about services? Are we talking about?
Professional office,
Yeah, you could put
So you could put-
insurance office.
Or you could put, there's all kinds of offices. There's shared offices, so many people working from home. They still need maybe to host clients in an office rather than in the dining room. So if that trend continues of more remote workers, then that is something that might interest the town, saying, oh, I can move my family there because not only do I have a nice place to live, I have a place to go conduct my work from home business when I need to. Or there's other types. That's why, see, even if you just throw out one word, different people in this room take it means something. So you have to get, not to like lead the witness in terms of these are your only choices, but these are types of examples. So you could say businesses similar to today, similar to businesses found today, businesses supporting future trends such as blah, blah. You don't even say too much, but it might help distinguish for everybody in their mind. Everybody's got their own filter, right?
So you gotta say, can we say a little bit enough?
I guess what you can do is, like, I think this was what Dory brought up at the last meeting, specific to describing the types of businesses. So I know that if you wanted to put text above this question that suggests types of businesses, you can explain in basic terms what residential uses, business, industrial, office, agricultural uses are. And then you can also suggest some of the comments that Corey had made with regards to maybe some future types of businesses that may exist.
Can you do that function where if you just like highlight over it, your cursor over it, well, that's not gonna work on the printed one, obviously. But where you cursor over it, it'll pull up a pop-up and give you some definition.
I don't know. I can take a look, but either way, it's gonna have to show up on the paper copy.
So have a lead-in section with those headings, so people at least have some idea.
To me, this is one of the most important questions we're asking, because it's really trying to get them to think about the future. 25%
just ask
of this survey is today. It's focused on demographics, or, it's very much today.
I'm also concerned it's so late in the survey.
Yeah.
Like, I think we all agree this is very important. Should it be earlier?
It should be, there's a question I noticed, and it's, at first I was kind of taken aback to the beginning, pretty much set the stage for then how they're gonna answer the rest of it to make sure that it rolls back up. But if you match that question with this question, you got the meat right there. And the rest is getting at some specifics. So I would agree with you that you,
So it's not land use, it's just future thoughts.
so it's like, it's on my paper number 8, how do you leave South Mission Ball by 2040?
think we removed, right?
We did remove that one.
We replaced this bit with where number 8 was.
Yeah, to start off, you could say, we're gonna start off with this kind of general question about the future, and then we're gonna dive into more specifics.
Kind of goes from macro to micro.
Yeah, and tell them, you know, they always say, tell them what you're gonna tell them, and then tell them what you told them. So this is part of it. We're gonna start off with demographics, and then we're gonna ask you some future forward-thinking questions, and then we're gonna dive deeper into each of the elements, so they know exactly what's expected of them as they fill this out.
So 8 has been removed. And the idea is to take this one that we've been discussing and bring it up to the front.
Say, first, we want you to think about the future in general,
Yeah, remind me.
and as you answer this question. And then the next part, you can say, now we're gonna dive into specifics in each of those areas. But that way, you're just thinking about the future right from the beginning.
So you're saying put that in as question 8.
Yeah, I guess on the paper copy, that was a different question, but bring it in, but position it well.
You understand that, Ken?
I think, I mean, if we're putting this particular question and the way that it's worded, it may seem a little out of context, but I think, and I think the way that Corey was describing it is it should be the lead-in for the rest of the survey. So maybe those questions should all relate to, because this is, I think, very specific to the types of businesses and would typically be found in a zoning regulation. These are the types of uses in these various zones. So I'm trying to imagine how to integrate a futurist type question to give the idea that they should be thinking along those lines for the rest of the survey. But I don't know if, it just would, I can put it up there, but I don't know.
You're not comfortable with it, but is there some way to apply that there'll be some futuring coming up or something in the survey at a point? Because people are saying number 8 is gone. How do you believe Southwick should evolve by 2040?
Yes, we removed that last meeting.
Pardon?
We removed that at the last meeting.
Okay, because the paper copy I have still has
Yeah,
it.
it's still there.
Yeah, that's removed.
Okay,
So what if the one right after that, where the town should, and we said encourage, discourage, really goes to the beginning of this land use, page 6, and it becomes the page right after demographics?
So put it land use right after demographics. I think that's fine.
And take the last question on demographics and move it to the land use page. It's not really a demographic, it's like the town should encourage or discourage business development, industrial development, historical character. That's not a demographic, that starts to get into land use.
With that header of thinking about future usage.
Over the next 20 years.
Right.
Can we even give a link to the trends presentation on the website if people wanted to like look at the trends?
Sure.
That does not help the paper copy people.
so the item the town should is going to move under, it's going to go to land use, and the item in land use is going to come forward to here.
No, I
The
think
whole land use section.
Moving earlier.
The whole land use section.
Right.
And this goes to land use, this goes later on in the survey?
No, this moves up as well.
This stays here?
No, this moves up.
With land use would be the first question.
Okay,
Exactly.
it'll be the first part of land use, but the whole of land use comes forward.
Yes.
Do you have that, Ken?
Moving the entire land use section to right after the demographics and this particular question as the first question in the land use section.
Right,
With the header about thinking about the future, so that people.
And we
Focus
also,
on the
in-
past.
and we also include the town should in that too.
You mean what's on the screen as number 34?
No,
No.
back on your page 1. It is your number 10.
Yep. Okay. So that goes to land use.
Yes.
And then the whole of land use comes up,
Land use
Land
becomes
use would be
page
before
3.
housing.
the whole of land use, including that, comes to the front.
Okay. All right.
In the interest of time, which
What do we have left?
coming up on 2 hours, we have natural, historical, and
We still
cultural.
have the building caps question from like 3 meetings ago.
What?
Yeah, we're talking about injecting the building cap questions into our survey.
Right.
Did they get?
Is that under land use?
I didn't include it. It was a comment and I didn't necessarily put it into the survey, but if you want me to, I'll just put it in there. As the way, I know that Marcus, and I don't know if the comments from Marcus came, but he provided some language to possibly use, if you want to use that specific.
It's in the email where Ken sent you the link to the survey. So like right below it, my question was, can we please include these 2 questions, which is what Diane had asked us to do in public comment. I don't know, that might have been March.
So that was going to be in the land use section, correct?
Yes. So would you be in favor of Southwick adopting a maximum square foot regulation for new buildings? Yes, no. If yes, what square footage should be the maximum? But right above it, there were examples, so people had a general sense. The big Y is 60,000 square feet. And then question 2, would you be in favor of Southwick adopting a maximum expansion size for existing buildings? Yes, no. The answer yes. What square footage should be the max?
Did that kind of get covered in the new bylaw?
Yeah.
No.
The 40%?
No. That's a trigger on if they provide documents up front. But it didn't cap anything, so they would just have to provide documents. This is, does the town support building tax?
So I suggested a generalization. Everybody should have my comments on that here. And the intro is condensed quite a bit. The intro is condensed quite a bit. It says some communities have adopted maximum size square footage regulations for buildings in their industrial and business zones in order to minimize the impact of parking lots, traffic flow, and stormwater runoff. So then the question is, would you be in favor of limiting the maximum square footage of new buildings? Yes or no? Would you be in favor of adopting a maximum expansion size for existing buildings? Yes or no? Then the results of that, if it's significant enough, would be discussed in a work session and specifically talked about numbers as to sizes, acres, whatever. Because I think the way it's very wordy and it's difficult. I think we're just trying to get an idea if the group wants this on at all. Do people, are people interested
I
in
like-
somehow?
I like your wording.
Is the question, when I first started, is this outside our jurisdiction? For soliciting, well, we can solicit the feedback and the desires, but then what are we doing with it?
The planning board would take action.
Right.
Well, then it would be workshopped. If people are concerned about it, then it would be discussed in more detail and people could,
And that
You
advice
know,
would go to the
And then present it to.
It would have to be something that would come out.
So,
So if people want, I mean, this adds 2 questions. They are yes or no questions.
Thanks, Marcus.
but it gives us something to put in master plan, like either no, they don't want to change, or we wouldn't have to say that, but if they do want.
Yeah.
Maximum stuff, then we'd be able to add that to master plan.
And this goes under land use,
Yes,
which is towards the front now.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. Ed's nodding. Nodding, not nodding.
So Marcus, or our committee, that it's fine the way that Marcus has posed that question with the introduction language with those 2 questions. I'll add it to the land use section.
And there will be, we'll know yes or no. All right. We have, in my mind, a half hour to go and we need to finish if we can. Or if we don't finish, we will do it by email.
Be careful with that.
Yeah.
We do by email.
Yeah. It would not be emailed amongst us. It would only go to Mr. Goddard. And he would have to work with it. He and Mr.
Well, it's the
Camilla.
last.
She's very excited about that over there behind you. John's like, you're gonna finish it tonight.
Okay,
Natural history and cultural resources, let's not forget, we had a question we blew off last week. too.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was.
I think my suggestion was to take out,
I actually don't know if mine goes in land use, my other one that was in John's email, names, Ken's email. So last summer, there was a lot of town chatter about displeasure that we have one uniform tax rate for residential and business. Does this committee want to ask any questions about uniform tax structure versus separate? Does that go in land use? Because I don't really know where else that goes. Is it sort of a development function?
That's what I wondering now.
I think it would probably go into infrastructure and services.
It's a tax question. It's not a land use question. It's a tax.
We don't really
question.
have a tax section.
No, I know.
It's
but
how
we
we
don't
need a
work
tax
on
section.
We have a tax.
how we pay for services, how we pay for services.
But do we want them to think about it while we're asking about development now? Should we all have the same uniform tax rate? Does it make sense there? Do we even want to ask about uniform tax rate or?
I lean not to ask about it. I think it should be stimulated or brought up as a how-to during a workshop.
Well, if we don't ask the question, it's not part of the workshop. But
And we
think
are
it's
putting a lot of
infrastructure.
faith in people showing up to these workshops.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
right.
We're going
Did you
to door
notice
to
how
door.
many people go to town?
Only between 10 and 6 though.
That's the law.
The law.
Ken, do you have the wording on that one?
I didn't provide any wording. I just asked if we wanted to ask a question.
Basic enough question to.
I mean, if we keep it simple, like the way Marcus put this down, just short and sweet, and just get a general sense, and then we drill down into it.
Like, should we have a uniform tax rate for residential and business?
Yeah.
Yes, no?
I would even simplify the language. Should we have the same?
Well, we do have the same.
Should we continue?
Should we
But not
continue? Yeah.
everybody knows that.
Yeah, should we continue the same tax rate? for
Yeah.
So you hear that, Ken?
Should we continue the same tax rate?
Should we continue?
Should we
The same.
continue with the same tax rate for both businesses? But I still think it goes with.
That's gonna confuse people. The tax rate is $17 per thousand. So we're gonna keep it that forever.
Oh, no, yeah.
We have to, it's gotta be explained.
Should business and residential
Pay
pay
the
the
same
same
tax
tax rate?
There you go. So should business
I mean,
slash
some people might
industrial,
not know that that's the way. it
should
is.
business slash industrial,
Continue to pay the same tax rate.
Residential.
got that? Ken? You can listen to the tape.
I have it.
Thank you. So we're on natural history, culture, resources. I was suggesting, I don't know what number it is
Hold
now.
Did we all agree that that should be in there? Was that just by, just hep, we're moving on because it's 9:05? I don't see how that is really germane to setting Southwick 2040. I understand zoning, I understand housing production, I understand bike lanes, I understand electric vehicle charging, I understand all of it. But how does a tax rate affect Southwick 2040?
I agree with you.
And I'll expound on it just a little bit in the interest of time. It is a good discussion to have. We have a discussion every single year. There's a public hearing every year in front of the Board of Selectmen with the Board of Assessors. I've been doing it for what, 8, 9 years? I don't believe anyone from the public has ever shown up. Only time it's ever been questioned was in the last year. And it was under the guise, I don't want to use that word, it wasn't meant to be derogatory, but it was under the auspice of, that's the reason, the only reason that someone would want to come here is because we have a singular tax rate. I have been part of the exercise, I've done the exercise myself. Under the current situation in town, number of businesses, yada, yada, yada. Changing the business tax rate does very little to manipulate the residential tax rate. Would it have effect? I can't answer the question on its attractiveness to business to locate in town, because no one's ever said that's the only reason I'm here or the main reason I'm here. I just don't think it's an appropriate question to ask on a master plan survey out of the blue, and I don't think how you can ask the question without getting into policy and have people make a supposition on what that would be. So I'm not casting aspersions whether it's a good idea, and it's a great discussion to have at some point in the future, but I don't think how you ask a singular question like that and then it may have people make a judgment and say, oh, that's a great idea, or that's a lousy idea, or yes, no.
Well,
I just don't.
I guess I would disagree with the concern about the public coming to the meetings, because look, we're talking about the future of Southwick, and there's 4 people in the audience, and we're all sitting in on boards, and the public just doesn't come out. Unfortunate as it is, it doesn't come out. And maybe this is one way to get information that you're never gonna get at that meeting, because the public's never gonna show up.
I guess you're right, especially coming, we're what, 48 hours from 150 people coming to town meeting? Right? But with all of the anxiety of the last year, when that was a huge point of contention, we still had a tax classification hearing this year. There was talk about it. I prepared acres of math, right, to just kind of figure out what would happen if we, let's say, doubled the tax rate on businesses. What does that do to the businesses? What does that do to the revenue side of the equation for the town and the consequence to the residential tax equation? And it was us, the assessors. So I don't know. I hear you, but
we need to bring it to a roll call vote if needed.
I'll make a
Thumbs up,
motion
thumbs
to
down.
exclude it.
Mr. Mogul made a motion to exclude it from the survey. A second.
I second it.
Mr. Scott Lehman seconds. We need a roll call vote on that, please, Jessica. So aye is to have it on the survey. Nay is to not have it.
Negative, that's not the motion.
Yeah,
on the floor, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, what is it?
I made a motion to exclude it from the survey.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Aye is to exclude it. Nay is to or put it on. Roll call, please.
Marcus Phelps,
Aye.
Doug Mogul,
Aye.
Randy Brown,
Aye.
Dave McWilliams,
Nay.
Norm Cheever,
Nay.
Scott Lehman,
Aye.
Dory Boyd, Ross Harry, Jessica Whitmore Parker, aye.
There's a couple folks that joined since the meeting, this is the first roll call. I saw Mr. Spina come in and, and it was,
Okay.
yeah,
Let me just,
No, she's got to finish it.
oh, sorry.
Marissa Cook Obregon,
Nay.
we have David Spina.
He is not online.
Is that there?
So that-
Yes.
Is anyone else
It's a
online?
drive-by.
So
Just
what-
want to get attendance.
Is there anyone else online or no? 6 aye, 3 nay.
6 aye, 3 nay. It's not on, won't be on the survey. Okay, natural, historical, and cultural resources. I'm suggesting the question, does the existing variety of shopping, recreation, entertainment meet your needs? Is there a drop down on this? I would wonder, is there?
No.
So I would suggest taking it off, because we're asking more specific questions.
So Ken, that's your 36.
Right. Need to remove it?
People are agreeing to remove, yes.
Okay.
So then the next one is,
What would you like to see in the town of Southwick?
choose all that apply.
How about over the next 20 years?
Yeah. Keep throwing it.
Yep, throw that in
And
there.
then everything you have on this list exists today.
I agree. It's a good point.
Is what?
It all's here, we already
It's all,
have.
it's all 2022.
Yep, we need to add some future stuff for stuff that's
We have
not
a
here.
museum,
I go down
Where?
virtual gaming.
the Moore House.
I'll say a Fedora drum race.
So can the,
What?
Drone firing squad.
the discussion is, we need to improve this list, looking at future things.
Okay.
I mean, are we gonna take some off like we have musical events? Or are we just gonna keep adding?
Well, we already have restaurants, we already have. Should all be things we done.
Just want to see more restaurants. We don't have a great selection of restaurants.
So what are we hearing from the committee here? What do we want to add?
So this touches, I don't know where it goes. This like is technically called natural, historical, and cultural. Harnessing like solar energy isn't really talked about anywhere. Is that a service? Is that a natural?
That would be more infrastructure.
I actually handed her a list of other businesses and social farms.
Well, one of the things though on the, and I don't want to butcher your thing because I really liked it with the chart of,
That's
thank you. Some of these though actually are good questions to ask because they're actionable nearer term to get on the path to 2040. So, for example, there's current talk about pickleball. There's been current talk about a dog park. This might reinforce current think around something like that can be action coming out of this survey. So, and to say, look, this is something that has support now, and it's something that can be implemented in relatively short term. It's not relying on drone delivery and, whatever, the rocket science business that's gonna locate here, right, for 2040. I think that,
That's why I said over the next 20 years.
Yeah. correct.
And then also, we're kind of in, we're in private business and then we have state sponsored, dog parks and musical events and such. So, I mean, I think restaurants, I don't think restaurants belongs in this question.
We asked it somewhere else.
It's in somewhere else, and
We
it's
asked
the
business,
enterprise.
we asked about business.
Other dining options, I mean, because you always have different people with, and I think I heard it just here under, someone said it, like, we don't have a great diversity of restaurants today. Right, I don't think it's not a horrible question, I think it's It's not a big, it's not a heavy lift as far as the time spent on it in the survey, and it might provide some actionable data. And can we add to a couple more things to it?
Yeah.
It's not a horrible question.
I guess if you want to add some things,
We might need something like shared office space, because
Yeah.
I'm just trying to look
Yeah,
through our
absolutely.
trends right now, and like, none of them, except the increased pet ownership, is addressed.
Sorry?
did we have increased pet
Increased
ownership?
That's on
Increased
there?
pet ownership was one of the trends, that's the only thing
Oh.
being addressed in that question.
Yeah, dog park.
Yeah, something like the shared office space or business startup space, like incubator space. I mean, those are. I think
Good idea. You can get grant money for those, and there's like, who is it? GE down in their, no, Mass Mutual down in their headquarters in Boston just invited the Mass Challenge in to have floor space. So there's large companies that are definitely encouraging that. So to have an incubator may draw other businesses into the community anyways. And these incubators, a lot of times when these businesses spin out, they wind up staying in the communities where the incubator was hosted. Absolutely.
Okay,
business startup though, because incubator might be too, someone might not know that term.
Makerspace.
Chicken eggs.
Makerspace was all the rage for a little while too,
No,
right?
I guess I give people a little bit more credit, that they're smart enough to know what this.
I feel like business startup is generally.
Yeah.
So, the text is going to be changed. What would you like to see in town of Southwick
In 2040.
in 2040?
By 2040.
Oh, by
By
Over the
20
next
years.
years.
Over the next 20 years, I like that better.
Over the next 20 years, Ken, you're getting that, right?
Yep.
Okay,
And quick.
and let's say,
Fastening a noose over there. What are you doing,
Yeah.
Ken?
let's say, how many new ones we will send in some to John Goddard?
Yeah.
Maybe, what, three additional ones each person, if you would like?
Forward thinking is the criteria.
Right. Think out of the box. If you want to, you don't have to send 3 more to John, and he will screen them and send them on to Ken.
When you get lithium battery disposal center, that's gonna be.
All right, we need to keep going here. Choose the statement that most closely reflects how you feel about the protection of open space in Southwick. That stays as is. Did
People
anybody
know what
comment?
open space is?
Pardon?
Do people know what open space is?
I believe
I
they
think they
do.
might not know what incubator means, but no.
No, but open space can be
Protected
farmland, it
open
can
space.
be.
Private or
Jolly
public.
Park.
And
I mean-
there's
Yeah.
a crap ton of open space in town today that's not protected.
Right.
So-
I feel like.
These are all protected. There is too much protected open space. There is not enough protected open space.
People know what's
The amount of
protected.
open space currently protected is just,
And are we asking about private or public?
Yeah, we asked about farmland, parks.
doesn't matter. I don't think,
it
I
does
mean,
matter.
Town can't do anything about private.
if I read this,
Well, we do, right? We do with that with
We do,
community,
Chapter.
CPA,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and,
okay.
and,
CPR
Hey,
program.
thank you. I couldn't even think, I'm getting tired. I couldn't come up with those three letters. APR, right?
do we want to keep it in?
I think so.
Take it out?
It's good, I think it just needs to be
Clarify
clarified
a little bit, just.
We just, in open spaces,
Of open space.
land, put in parentheses, land that can never be built upon, or that's just straight up.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to get into all the mechanics of APRs and, all this other stuff. Land that can never be built on.
Ken, can we put something in after open space that is descriptive, like can never be built on?
But Doug, are you thinking like, can never be built on like a park, like Wally Park, or are you thinking more like
Exactly.
farmland?
Both. I mean, we have both in town, right? So Wally Park by deed can never be built upon. I've seen the deed, right? And There are other, the Pumpkin Valley Farm, that's APR. But if we start getting into describing all the methods of protecting it, I think it obfuscates the point of the question.
Why don't we avoid the methods? Like, I agree.
Right, right.
Maybe give examples, parks.
Right. So,
Farmlands.
good point. So
Farmland.
Ken, just like I had said, land that can never be built on, like Wally Park, or,
Say
like,
parks.
yeah, like a park, and like Pumpkin Valley Farm or something like that.
Change it to
'Cause
develop.
I just don't want people, yeah,
But doesn't it
Develop.
matter if it's public or private? Because like, I can't go strolling around Pumpkin Valley Farm, but I can go to Wally Park. So I might feel differently about open space I can use versus open space that just someone else owns. Those are two, like,
Are we gonna handle it in a workshop? How do we get to it? We get more private, we get more public?
I mean, we also, I think we addressed this question in the land use, right? Don't we talk about open space,
Uh,
very specific? Well, this is acquisition of public lands. And then we talk about acquisition of open space for passive and active recreation and creating and restoring wildlife habitats. Or I think,
Acquisition is town owned.
I think, yeah, but I think it probably speaks for an acquisition, then, right? Because to Dory's point, we can't all go have campfire on our behind the pumpkin patch.
I mean, I can, but.
Well, we couldn't Wally Park either, but so, that's a good point. I think that maybe the town owned, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
but I mean, that's the beauty of APR. To me, like Pumpkin Valley Farm, right? The beauty of that is it's protected forever. The town doesn't have to maintain it. It's always going to be farmland of some kind, and it'll never be built on and not a burden on the town.
Then developed, I think.
And developed.
I think then.
I keep saying built on and I
It's
keep
a
saying
development.
developed. I agree with you. It's developed,
In here.
right?
So Ken, have you defined open space somewhere?
no. So I think that
In other communities?
keeping it, like, if you were to say something like, choose the statement that most closely reflects how you feel about the protection of open space in Southwick, and then add another sentence that says, open space can be defined as land that can never be developed, like Wally Park and Pumpkin Valley Park.
Oh, it's not a park,
Just
no.
say undeveloped.
What? Wally Park's not a park?
No,
I think it's
Pumpkin Valley.
Oh, Pumpkin Valley Farm, sorry.
Yeah. So add a sentence that describes open space.
Isn't it just undeveloped?
Yeah, I think undeveloped land,
That's
such
open-
as
that's a
farms or
definition.
parks. I mean, you can just say
Well,
like
if you
that.
say undeveloped land, I don't, that's.
And it
It's undeveloped.
includes the part that it's undeveloped.
Someone's gonna pick a fight with you, Roz, that Wally Park was developed. It wasn't, Wally Park just didn't spring out of the
Right.
ground.
That's why I
right?
feel like, yeah,
But
open space.
it will never gonna, it's never gonna be an apartment complex. That was why Wally Park went in there, right? Because someone was talking about doing that. So that's how Wally Park
But it
came
is,
about
it
in
is
the first.
developed, unlike.
Correct, unlike Pumpkin Valley Farm, which is kind of land,
Point taken.
yeah, that's all.
So Ken's gonna help us by putting in something that describes the open space. Activities that you
Just going
enjoy.
back,
Pardon?
I think there's a typo.
What?
It's choose a statement that most closely reflects.
Okay, yep.
Thank you. That. All right, the next one is a laundry list of activities that you enjoy.
And motorized boating is listed twice, I think.
Is there a way to
Yep.
featurize this
You're
question?
right. Motorized boating gets zapped out. It's there twice. Good catch.
So what is gonna give us new information from this that the open space survey we just did in 2019 doesn't already have?
Right, I mean, that's why I was asking, can you futurize this question? I mean, these are all things that people we want to know what people want to keep doing in the future here in town, right? Otherwise, let's build up the whole town potentially. Forget walking, hiking. So how can we futurize it so that it kind of is a little bit different than what the survey that we did 4 years ago? Just kidding. I mean, granted, the world has changed a lot in 4 years. Like people are probably doing a lot more of these things now because of the pandemic. Right. So it's changed. I understand that, but I want to somehow remind people to think about this in 20 years' time, not just something that they're doing right now. Otherwise, it's just kind of census, like what people are doing in town in 2022.
Yeah, this is what's the present.
Right.
How about choose the following activities that you would like to see over the next 20 years' time? So,
Something like that, yeah.
yeah, we already know what.
Right, exactly.
So you want to, I mean, at the end, it says enter another option. So
Right, but
somebody can say drone flying or whatever they want to say.
I feel like it's not so much about the activities themselves, it's some way of posing the question that
What do you want to do
projects
in
out
the
to
future?
20 years in terms of do we want to still be able to have these things in 20 years from now? So do we still want to have bird watching? Do we still want to have dirt biking? I mean, how do we futurize this? Participating regularly now.
Just a quick question, is ETVing even a legal activity in town here?
It isn't, but it could be.
Oh,
Right, but this is the fact that it is.
Especially electric.
Yeah, I want one of those.
You say that?
Somebody might put in a park, allow it, I guess, it could be allowed.
Self-limited.
I don't know.
It could be allowed.
Saying what activities do
But Scott, if you look at it, right, it's in Southwick or elsewhere.
So are we gonna take out some of these that are, I would say, well,
Put on my private protected land, do what I want.
Well, exactly. As long as it's registered.
right. Can we ask what activities would you like to do in Southwick that you can't do now, that you want to see in the future? Because that's great that they.
Is that going to be a fill-in or?
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
the second half of the
I
state
mean, maybe
elsewhere?
we eliminate.
That's the second half of the question, right?
Right.
maybe just
I
do
don't
it,
understand why
let's
we
just do it as a
vote on it
fill-in.
Yeah, it is a question.
Let's just do it as a fill-in and take out all these choices.
But then isn't that the same thing? What would you like to see in the town of Southwick, like 2 questions above?
Yeah, it's
This
one of
is
them.
more recreational, I feel like, set activities, and it kind of relates to land use.
Well, let's
What are the
specifically
activities?
say
What is it?
That's-
But some of that is
Recreational.
recreational, like music events and swimming and court sports, and dog parks.
Right, but I feel like bird watching, hunting, fishing, those are all things that could change, develop, depending on how the town develops, so.
This doesn't feel like a giant bit.
Yeah, it's a big change.
I mean, this can end up being an endless list.
Right, so I'm wondering if it's a question that stays, or if we change it to ask people what activities, what recreational activities would you like to see in Southwick in the future? And list things that we definitely don't have now, so that we're getting in the mindset of like, okay, what don't I do now?
Well, maybe put in a couple, but have more other.
Could that be one of
places.
those things that you do like a 3 list, like a 3
Oh, yeah.
thing, and then have it become one of those word, or what is it called, the word things? You know?
Why don't we say that?
Yeah,
Well,
but
this-
No, you
I
know what I
don't think
mean,
we
where
should
you have,
delete though.
like,
Yeah.
it becomes like a chart of the bigger the word, the more often it was mentioned.
Right.
That's it, thank
It used
you.
to be called the word.
I can't say even APR anymore. Yeah, word cloud. Thank you.
So Ken, are you getting that? We'll take out all these choices and we're gonna say in a box, list 3 recreational activities you would like to see in Southwick in the next 20 years.
That you'd like to see Southwick continue or add in the next 20 years.
Continue or add in the next 20 years.
But then I don't know. the numbers. Number 37 needs to be the same. So the very first one we're deleting Does the existing variety of shopping, recreation, and entertainment meet your needs? We should ask each of those independently then. What type of shopping does Southwick need in the next 20 years? What type of recreation does Southwick need in the next 20 years? What type of entertainment? And stop giving these lists.
Yes.
Yeah, we
But is
stopped the
shopping
list.
a natural, historical, or cultural?
Cultural, that's.
I don't shop. so
It's a
I hate
lifestyle.
shopping.
So we don't do a list, we just have the question with three choices.
So the question, there'll be three different questions saying, list the three shopping activities that you'd like to see in Southwick or shopping options
Yep.
in the next 20 years.
Yep,
And then I'm going to remove number 37.
For the next 20 years.
This in the next, over the next 20 years means today into 2040. In
Right.
20 years means 2040.
Over the next 20 years.
So one would be shopping, and then another one would be what, recreational activities?
And entertainment.
Yeah, that's like with that first question we're
Yeah.
doing.
Entertainment / cultural, just so that,
Again,
that includes museums as well, art.
Well, they just said shopping was cultural.
so we're gonna have three questions.
Yep.
Shopping, entertainment / cultural, and help me out,
Recreation.
recreation. Thank you.
And I will be removing number 37 and number 39.
37 and 39. I remember.
So Marcus, it's these options. And then number 39, it's the recreation options.
Yep, 39.
I don't think we need the shopping one because on the page, well, it'll be a different page now, but in land use, we already talk about what type of development should be encouraged. So someone could check business and talk about, I want whatever I want for my grocery store or whatever store I want, I can put there.
Yep.
But it's gonna be redundant.
So all of 39 can go though, right?
Yeah.
There's only going to be two questions, recreational and entertainment cultural.
Yes. I think that's good. That'll work.
All right.
And then that open space question still stays.
Do we keep this, do you enjoy other open space and recreational activities in Southwick that aren't listed above? Please explain.
Because there's no list above, so that can't be worded that way.
Right,
We took away the list above.
Yeah, you can delete that.
Yeah, other ones, maybe on the, instead of just the two, the recreational and,
shopping,
yeah,
Cultural.
cultural, maybe
Cultural.
then other there, so you have three. So then that'll just take that. We're soliciting, information there, we just take that and move it up to 37. And we'll still get that, that'll solve that question.
Get rid of those.
so we'd add a third item that says other.
Other, okay.
Yes,
I draw your attention to the clock at the rear.
oh, I know. It's very painful.
It was your self-imposed deadline, Mr. Chairman.
I know it was.
how many questions do we have left?
However,
Like,
we only have 3 questions left, but we
Heads down,
have
power grip.
some
Let's
more.
get it done.
Because we aren't going to meet again for a while, and I'd like to get the survey in form to go
I
out.
don't remember which one we couldn't just agree on this.
So we are now, to what extent do you agree with the following statements?
it was 11 and 12.
Do we want to keep that?
Make,
Oh, it's related to the lake.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'd like
those
to
were
make,
good.
add one word on the first question. And the word we're gonna add is water, improving the water quality of Lake Conemaugh.
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear that, Ken?
Yep.
Water quality.
Is it Lake Conemaugh or Conemaugh Lake? Could we use both in that question?
It is the Congamon Lake normal. I defer to Norm, but I believe it is a singular.
Yep.
Yeah.
Singular,
Congamon Lake.
So in the
Of
last
3
one, it says
basins.
Lake Conemaugh.
yes.
So should this change?
Yeah.
Congamon Lake, they should all say the same thing.
They should all say Congamon Lake. It's
Singular.
overcrowded. No, it should say Congamon
Poke
Lake.
the bear this week, finally. We're trying to get out of here.
All right, then there's an open question. What do you believe are the top 3 issues facing the town of Southwick relative to Congamon Lake?
Fine, you don't have to answer it if you don't.
That's correct.
Then we provide, please provide your email address. And thank you for participating in the survey.
The only thing with the email address from last meeting is we said we wanted to mention the community listening sessions. So I was just proposing and be informed of any upcoming meeting dates, including 2 community listening sessions.
So at the end of that, including
2 community listening sessions.
2 community, what are we calling them, Ken, officially?
Community meetings.
Community meetings?
About visioning.
Well, we have one is visioning, one is implementation. So I think generally they're 2 community meetings.
Think about, we just talked about how hard it is to get people to come to community meetings.
Can't hear, what?
We just talked about how hard it is to get people to come to community meetings. So this should be thought of as something special and it should be named as something special. Right? Otherwise, it's just, oh, it's just town meeting, I want to go, but you know, I haven't grocery shopping.
But won't we do publicity on this as a separate event?
Probably, but then you have to.
Let's
be
start it now.
consistent with what you call it, right?
Can you use the word participation? So they are signing up if they want to participate. Yeah, that's a little bit more active instead of just meetings where you sit and listen.
Yeah, they're not meetings, they're workshops.
Yeah.
Participatory workshops,
What's that?
participatory workshops.
Yeah. Maybe we should put in free snacks or something.
Yeah,
And
Not here.
Have a hook.
well, let's say, be informed of any upcoming meetings and participate in,
Learn that lesson in one.
And an invitation to community workshops. or
Yeah.
something.
and
An invitation to
participate
participate
in community workshops.
Question on sharing email as it pertains to this being the town function and public record. Are we assuring people their emails won't be shared in public record or how do we handle that?
Can't.
No, I don't think we would.
I don't think you can.
That's why I asked from the town.
Right.
I think we have to say that then, that this email will be part of public record, which means we're not going to get a lot of people.
So what if we just say sign up on our website? Is that still become public record?
We'd have to look into that. You know what, that might be something that you can redact. I don't know the answer.
Or be
Someone
sure to
else.
follow the Facebook page for an invitation too, because then it's no collection.
Because there is stuff that when someone came over the counter and said, can I have the home addresses of every single town employee? I think we don't have to give that out that information for obvious reasons.
John, could you check into that
I will get that answer.
from our town council? No. From the powers that be on the sharing of emails. So the last question, are we leaving it open or do we just thank people? Are we gonna, we're gonna get a list of a lot of other things? What's your pleasure?
It'd be fun to read through.
All right, so the last question stands.
It was at the time, number.
We have to,
Still needs to decide what we're doing with 11 and 12. Right now, when you click no on 11, the pop-up logic is showing 12 and it gets lost. Plus, we were trying to condense them. I have no idea what number it is now.
Remember the question itself, just the text, looking.
Ken, can you take us through those in the beginning that we're gonna revisit?
It's the housing questions.
Housing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The ranking of the priorities, is that the one?
No, it's these 12, 13, 14.
There's yeah. Yes, no.
We were looking at taking one away, I believe.
Or, yeah, like combining one.
Yeah, I thought we had combined it.
No, we didn't agree that that's a problem. We never agreed after we talked for half an hour.
We're gonna combine 13 and 14.
I think it was, didn't we have it like 13, wasn't that the, one of the hot button, or the hot button?
You were talking about combining 12 and 13. However, I think what ended up happening was we addressed that one is very specific to housing options in town. And then one question is, are you present with your current housing situation? So those are two separate questions. But if you wanted to remove whether or not you're satisfied with your own housing situation and just rely on housing and make it general, you could just put, do you believe, are you satisfied with housing options in Southwick?
That sounds good.
That's a,
And delete 14, because I could see that coming up during discussion on housing.
So delete 13 and 14 and word number 12. Please indicate whether you are satisfied with the housing options for you and your family in Southwick. Please provide any comments if you wish.
Yes.
Okay.
Can we project that forward, like housing options, not now, but
Right.
2040? That's where the question needs to go.
You believe there will be sufficient housing options by 2040 or something?
Over the
Over the next 20 years or something to that effect
Yeah, I can add that.
in there.
is it really, do you believe, or is it?
Could be based on current trends. Feels that
They're
they're,
not gonna know what the trends are.
I think, but everyone knows that housing has gone up a lot. It's pretty expensive. So if you want to move to Southwick, if you're an employee in Southwick and you want to move here, but you're outpriced, you're seeing that it's currently high. Do you feel like you're going to be able to move here in the next year, 5 years? Something can happen.
Well, if they don't live here now, they're not.
If they work here.
I think they'd express it.
I read that question a couple times too, I'm like,
You gotta own a business, it's not just working.
well, I thought
No,
we
we
could,
left it as manager, we left it.
right.
Well, manager, business owner, but that's not like the worker.
My first pass was to delete 12, like, well, you're already living somewhere. Business owners filing is accepted, but I'm like, well, there's probably people living in apartments that would love to buy a house that can't afford one today. There are town employees, I know a lot of them that they're all in Westfield or somewhere else because they can't find an affordable option here in town.
But what are we gonna do with that?
I don't know, but that's probably what you're trying to get at here, I
This
think.
is about affordable housing, right? That's
So maybe that
section.
goes to the density issue, if you build, part of the problem is housing, the golf course was supposed to be, quote unquote, affordable housing. That's an amorphous term, but then they came in at, $300,000+ in fees.
Yeah, you go there, they're small, but they're expensive.
Right, but if you were able to put, that tighter, even tighter than they are there as a flex res or mixed use or some other denser solution, they could have been more price efficient in the market to make that more attractive to, say, young couples or something like that.
So what do you think we should do with 12, 13, 14?
Well, a lot of this is
I just leave it.
answered in 15, which I think is that 17 or 18. Where it's on a scale of 1 to 5, you'd like to see the town provide affordable and accessible housing options by promoting development support towards it. It goes through everything. So I think those are covered
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
And that's just a way to cross-validate it with these questions here.
Yeah, I think.
But Ken had an idea of
Present housing or
putting,
present relevant?
two of them together,
I
right?
don't think present
Ken?
is relevant. We're talking
Go
about-
over again what you were suggesting there.
Well, it was because they were two separate questions initially to talk about in the future. Well, I guess in this way that it's currently worded, it's not. But are there sufficient housing options for you and your family? And then the question about whether or not you're satisfied with your own housing situation. I think what I just suggested was more general, that states, but then we also talked about how to incorporate over the next 20 years. So I don't know necessarily if we arrived at anything, but my initial question, reworded question was, please indicate whether or not you are satisfied with housing for you and your family in Southwick. And it's very general.
And it's very right now.
Right. It's not about the future.
I don't think it applies.
So we wanted to try to add some future to it.
But what do you need for the housing plan? Because that's part of this funding.
You need all three to get to the housing plan?
No, because I think, as I mentioned at the last meeting, we can also, during the housing the housing community meeting, the housing workshop, is to ask questions that we wouldn't capture here, and really formulate those questions based on who's attending.
So you can drop 14.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can definitely ask that during the housing workshop.
And include some reference to future in 12 or 13.
Well, it's down below and
Like 13, try to have it a more forward-looking.
there is a forward-looking one down low where it asks like.
Is there?
Yeah.
When you talk, if you were to move to another living situation within Southwick by 2040, what type of housing do you anticipate would meet your future needs?
Well, there they are.
Can we just delete all three of those we just talked
Yeah,
about?
okay.
So we don't need it.
Or at least
in
13
places.
and 14.
So we can definitely delete 14
Okay.
and keep 12 and 13.
Delete 13.
Delete 13 also?
Yeah, we don't need
Yeah,
to.
'cause it's
Okay.
down
And
below.
14 can go.
13 and 14 delete.
Final answer.
Yep, final answer, because it's down below.
Makes so much sense.
Very good.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm very sorry we ran so long. I mean, it just was something I
We got
think
it
we
done.
had to get done. We are finished. Hopefully, we'll get the final look at this and, you know, we'll move forward. My thought is, right now, this would come out in June 1st, and we would keep it open until the end of July.
That's when we were gonna have it live by May.
Right.
Thought we had discussed keeping it open kind of all summer.
Well, I thought August would be the opportunity to process the information, so we'd be ready in September for
I think one of the concerns was
workshops.
that there wouldn't be people around during the summer to keep it open longer. I think trying to get us in August together to do something like that might be difficult. As a committee.
Question, an additional question, do we need to put a need to respond by date on there at all? Can we leave that open? And if we get a fraction of the responses we're looking for, and we go back, we market it again, we push it out again, take the survey until we get a certain number of surveys back. I mean, I think get the most bang for our buck that way.
Ken, do you think, do we need to have a cutoff date, or?
No, I think if the committee is okay with just kind of being fluid about the timeline, I don't think that you need to post a cutoff date. Obviously, when we print out copies, if there happens to eventually be a cutoff date, then we just need to update those copies, because that's really the only thing that you'll need to update. Because I can
think
always
that
change.
You're gonna get people's sense of urgency.
As we
to
get
actually
closer,
do it.
then yeah, we can put a close date on it.
So in my mind, we should have some kind of an ending date. Dave is suggesting the end of the summer,
Yeah.
so it'd be an August date.
September 1st, August 30th.
August 31st,
Yeah.
yeah, that sounds.
Oh, 31st. I should know that's my wife's birthday.
Are we okay?
Yeah.
August 31st, Ken?
That's fine.
Think about when you have a long time to do something and it's not your first priority, it goes in.
You're never gonna do it.
And something
Yep.
else goes on top of
Right.
it, and pretty soon it's buried.
Are we really gonna have it ready by June 1st?
Yeah, that's another question.
Will it be ready by June 1st, do you think, Ken?
That's 2 weeks away.
In paper.
Yeah, because don't we need to review the paper one in case that changes?
Well, I would trust staff, but I'm trusted.
How about July 1st through August 31st?
Yeah, that's
It's 2 months.
July 1st,
Does it matter when it, I mean, if it's ready on the 1st, great. If it's ready on the 10th, great.
Oh, true, yeah.
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 But we have to
I don't
review it
think-
one last time.
Yeah.
When
well,
are we
our
doing
next
it?
meeting is the 2nd of June. I would suggest still keeping that first meeting in June, so. Are we okay?
That would be a chance to review it one last time, go through it, just, is that what you're saying?
And then get it
Yes,
out.
15 minutes one last time, but
And
I'm
focus
hoping
on the
everybody
paper.
will have seen it online and so forth, so.
I would be in favor of that just because I think we also need to make sure that as soon as we have a finished final version, we talk subsequently, like right then and there, about how we're gonna market this and push this as well.
Well, yeah,
So-
we need to have the mailing ready
Right.
to go. And if we agree on the
And it's-
date, August 31st,
So can we ask Ken for a deadline as to when he could get that to us in advance? So that we have ample time to review it, so that we all come in here educated?
so our next meeting is June 2nd. So we want it a week before that.
Is that
I'm
doable?
I'm gonna be on vacation. But I will be having Jacinta work on the text copy, and I can suggest that at the thing is, what ends up often happening is I work through the weekend. So as you received it, I think you received it Saturday or Sunday. Presumably I could get it to you by Monday, like Monday morning or like Sunday night. So that you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to review it.
There's not really enough time.
Well, it's got, the review shouldn't be much. I mean, we've looked at this 3
Can't keep
times.
changing it.
We're on 4 times we've looked at it. This will be the 5th test.
Well, it's just the final run
So
through,
this is
right?
the final one, I would think. What day is
When are
that
you on
Monday?
vacation?
Or could you get it to this the Friday?
I mean, it's, I will work with Jacinta to do it. Which would be what? That would be next Friday, right?
That's the 27th.
It'd be before the holiday, before Memorial Day holiday, June 27th.
I'll work with Jacinta to do that.
Will we be reviewing the text version as well on
That's a
the
lot to
second?
ask him to do that.
I mean, that's the thing. It's now starting from scratch to put the text version together so that it's not on 23 pages as it currently is.
That's why I suggested that we, review it, which would be the second meeting in June, the 16th, and we get it out hopefully by July.
So start pushing the electronic first and then paper, is that what you're saying?
So electronic version by 27th and the paper to follow. I guess the paper for our meeting, the second meeting in June.
By then we'll know who's requested it.
Right, I have some idea. Okay, I'm gonna just go through the rest of the agenda very quickly. The website and Facebook, Mr. Goddard is managing, and we'll continue to work in setting that up. The graphics, Marisa has, of course, done wonderful things with everything we needed there. We're going to need to work up that postcard under new business, the mailing for the community survey to each household. And we'll use town resources as far as the whatever it's called, the postal seal that goes on those cards. So we just need maybe Marisa, you can work with John on, you know, we've looked at the card already.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
ready
think
to go, it just needs
we're
the
good.
dates really,
Yeah.
and the QR code for the website. Other than that, we're good to go on it.
I handed out a sheet that came from the Economic Development Committee about events that are coming up in Southwick. So we can think about where we want to have a presence next. I certainly appreciate the folks that staff the table at the annual town meeting. Jessica, Dave, Scott, Bert, it was awesome. And the brochures, you know, were wonderful to hand out. So very great, a very good job there. I'll put off the approval of the minutes. They're okay.
Mr. Chairman, one quick question
Yeah.
on the brochures. Is there any place that we should begin in the interim, spreading them around town? I know I have some here in town hall by the town clerk's office, but we have about 500 and some change to begin distributing.
Yeah,
The library is probably a good place.
yeah.
Can they leave it?
Oh, one thing on the meetings, I pasted a note on there, Rotary and Lions.
I saw those.
If someone, I think Dave, you had been kind of asked to show up at Rotary. So if you take some brochures, so if you are able to do that. And I don't know, is anybody connected with the Lions? I don't do the animal clubs.
Marissa, did we buy, or did these come with the little stand
They
holder things?
didn't know, should we purchase?
I would, and I mean, next time you stop at a business or. if you
I
wanna-
know a few businesses
You know,
that we could put.
Yeah, that right on the counter, and then we'd gladly do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, two final things. Annual town meeting approved a planning board budget that included $55,000 to continue working on the master plan. So we have adequate funds, and Ken Camilla has done a wonderful job putting together an application that's going to go to the EOEEA requesting $50,000 for implementation of the plan and a review of our current bylaws and regulations. So John has worked on that also. I appreciate it, John. He was able to get a cover letter signed. So just a small correction in the text of the application, but keep our fingers crossed, because if we get that grant money, we won't have to use so much of our own town money. And our match is 106% because of you people participating in this committee and John working on it. So, and Ken also. So great job, everybody. And I'm sorry to keep you till 10 o'clock, but anything else that anybody,
Want to clear the minutes? Well, just
huh?
2 minutes till 10. You want to clear the minutes that were on the,
If you want to, we have April 21st and May 5th minutes.
omnibus motion for both.
You make a motion for that?
May 2nd.
And Dave McWilliams seconded. So all those, roll call vote on the minutes, please.
Good timing. Marcus Phelps,
Aye.
Doug Mogul,
Aye.
Randy Brown,
Aye.
Dave McWilliams,
Aye.
Norm Cheever,
Aye.
Scott Lehman,
Aye.
Jory Boyd, Ross Terry,
Aye.
Jessica Whitmore Parker, aye. Marissa Cook Overgon.
Pass unanimous.
Need a motion to adjourn?
Oh, I need a motion to adjourn.
And just, Mr. Phelps, did you actually have a quorum of your planning board at some point?
No, we did not. I declared we did not have a quorum.
Ms. Thornton arrived during said meeting, and Mr. Spina was here, so just for your minutes, motion to adjourn.
She's
we did
an
have-
associate member.
I'm
Of the
gonna
planning
just
board.
point it out, motion
Okay.
to adjourn. I don't think we're gonna make a complaint for that.
Oh, all right.
We got a second.
Second by Norm Cheever,
Aye.
motion by Mr.
Aye.
Mogul.
Aye.
Adjourn, aye.
Aye.